Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Irish Breakdown Podcast. It's Friday, and we all know what that means. It's the Friday Free-For-All Mailbag, best day of the week. And we're here. We got the whole crew here. I'm Vince. That's Brian. That's Trevor. We're all here. We're excited. We are ready to rock and roll. You guys are in charge of the show today. So if you have a question that you want to throw into the chat, make sure you put an MB at the front or put the little mailbox emoji so we know that it is a mailbag question. We will get it starred, and we will attempt to answer as many as we possibly can in the amount of time that we have. And then also, if you want your question to jump to the top of the pile, all you got to do is throw us a super chat, and yours automatically jumps to the top. And that is how it's done. So if you have any questions, make sure you read the directions one more time, and we'll get back to you. But we're ready. We're ready to rock and roll, fellas. How's your Friday? You ready to roll this thing into the weekend?
Man, I'm always ready for, as long as I can talk, I'm always in a good mood to do the mailbag. So, yeah, let's get ready to rock and roll. So, Vince, you're reading. Okay. I'm starring. We're all answering. So I'm ready. Whoop, whoop. I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to go. And we do, Vince, by the way, have a super chat to kick things off with.
See?
Got a super chat from Wade Garrett, which we greatly appreciate. So Wade is going to kick off today's show.
Well, Wade Garrett read the directions and he understood. So thank you so much for the super chat, Wade. Appreciate it very much. Just want to sneak in a question before I den. Very good. Top 5 QBs in your lifetime in college football. Keep up the great work, guys. We all appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
So top 5 quarterbacks for me has to be somebody that had some level of like longevity. So Cam Newton and Joe Burrow, for example, had great one seasons in college football. But I need to see more than just like a guy or like a season. So greatness for me is multiple seasons of greatness. Was Tim Tebow ever as good in a single season as Cam Newton was in 2010? Probably not. But Tim Tebow did it for 3 years and won 2 national titles, right? I mean, that carries more weight for me than, like, let's say, a Cam Newton or a Joe Burrow, who are brilliant for one season. So that's just so much, just so you understand my personal criteria, Trev. You can kind of go wherever you want, but just kind of with that in mind, off the top of my head, just trying to think of the best quarterback. So I would say top 5. I'm just going to go with who I think was the best, not my favorite, because like Woody Dancer's my favorite. He's not even necessarily top 5 at Clemson in my lifetime, but I loved Woody Dancer back in the day. Top 5 in my lifetime, I'd probably have to go with, Tebow is obviously in that conversation. Love him or hate him. The fact is the guy won 2 national titles. He was not the starter on one of the national title teams, but
he was an integral part of it, though.
Yeah,
he was.
Right, and that he was won a Heisman, finished his career as the all-time leading leader in rushing touchdowns in the SEC. That's pretty good accomplishment, and Florida won a ton of games with him. So you're talking about a guy that passed for over 9,000 yards, had 88 passing touchdowns, also rushed for 2,947 yards and had 57 rushing touchdowns. His Heisman season, he passed for 3,200 yards, rushed for 895, passed for 32, and rushed for 23. That's 55 touchdowns. That's especially back then, that's really impressive. So Tim Tebow is in my top 5. Just trying to think of it off the top of my head. I'm trying to go back because I don't want to forget anybody. I think I love Trevor Lawrence. I don't know that I'd say he's in my top 5, but he's at least in the conversation. And Johnny Manziel was more of a one-year star. I don't think he was as good in 2013 as he was in 2012, in my opinion. He was also a bit of a stat patter, system-generated kind of guy. Oh, man. Boy. Charlie Ward was pretty great. But it's really hard. There's a lot of Tommy Frazier. Trevor, I had you watch. I had you finally watch I made Trev last night watch. Make him. I sent him the video for the Nebraska-Florida title game, and he'd never watched a full Nebraska game, and I probably turned it off at halftime because it was over. But he got a chance to see Danny Warfel and Tommy Frazier both play. Problem with Tommy is he just had so many injury histories. He like never really played a full season, so I can't put him in there. But he's a great winner. Won back-to-back titles. Man, this is tough. This is tough. Trev, you have any guys like pop in your head as top 5? And obviously your top 5 in your lifetime is not as far back as Vince and I got to travel in our memory banks to think about all-time great.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield's in that conversation for me. What he did in back-to-back years at Oklahoma, the stats he was putting up. I mean, he was pretty nuts. I mean, his senior season where he won the Heisman, 43 passing touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 5 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he was really good. Joe Burrow's got to be in that conversation for me. I mean, look, man, the season that he put together was insane. It was the best single season I've watched a quarterback put together in college football. And I can't think of one that I would put above his, if I'm being honest. Just what he did game in, game out against that level of competition. So he's in that conversation for me. Tebow's in that conversation for me. And then you start getting into like what they meant for their like programs. Like Brady Quinn's dancing around that conversation for me for what he did to Notre Dame for Notre Dame in 05 and 06. I mean, if you just want to talk like statistically, like Colt Brennan at Hawaii was crazy. He's not in that list for me.
I got to put. I'm thinking as you're talking about. I'm adding Baker to mine. Baker was tremendous, and those Oklahoma teams were outstanding. He took them to the playoffs twice. Yeah, and put up monster numbers despite having some really bad defenses. So yeah, that's a. I'll have to put Baker in there just for college. And
his story is cool. Former walk-on, goes, he's at Texas Tech, gets the start, then he transfers to Oklahoma, wins the Heisman. That story alone is just cool. I mean, that's like storybook stuff. It's what all walk-ons dream of doing. So, checked all the boxes short of winning a national championship. But when you put up those numbers as a starting quarterback at Oklahoma, you kind of expect to be playing for one. That's more on the defense for sure. Trying to think.
I got one that I'm kind of going through in like the years and the Rolodexes is I'm putting Vince Young in there. Vince Young obviously had one great season, but Vince Young had 2 great seasons as a runner, 1 great season as a passer. He's in my conversation. I don't know that I'd put him in there, but he's in the conversation, I should say. Lamar Jackson is another one because Lamar had 2 brilliant years at Louisville. And I also like elevators as quarterbacks. Like this is no knock on Matt Leinart, but I'm making a point. Like Matt Leinart was a great quarterback, and I think he should be in the conversation because he had brilliant seasons. But he was also surrounded by he walked into a great situation, took over a great situation, and kept a great situation going. Whereas Lamar Jackson walked into a mediocre program and made them relevant and elevated them, and he had 2 brilliant seasons. So I'm going to throw Lamar in that conversation as well. So right now, for sure, I got Tebow. For sure, I got Lamar. For sure, I got Baker. I think Joe Burrow was brilliant. I just my only pushback, and that's why I love these conversations, Trev, because you can look at things so many different ways. I would argue, Trevor, that Joe Burrow had the best individual season of a quarterback I've ever seen. Just singular season. But I do look back and I say, I think there's a lot of quarterbacks that could have done what he did with that talent.
Disagree.
Like put Baker in that, put Matt Leinart in that, put a lot of other great quarterbacks throwing to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and having Clyde Edwards-Helaire in that system. I think there's a lot of guys that could have produced like that. I think that if he was that good, he would have been better the year before. He was solid the year before, but not that he would have been anything close to what he was, because you need a system that's going to allow you to thrive, to perform. So, for example, you watch Tommy Frazier play. If they'd have put him in that Florida offense, he wouldn't have been as good. If you'd put Danny Warfel in the Nebraska offense, he wouldn't have been as good. You got to be in a system that thrives. But I think he was great. Joe Burrow was great for that one season. But I think Lamar would have been great on that team. I think Baker would have been great on that team. I think Kyler Murray would have been great on that team. I think Matt Leinart would have been great on that team. I don't think Vince Young would have been great on that team because that's not his system, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I don't think Burrow takes that 05 Texas team to the title the way that Vince Young does. And that's what it does for me. I can't. It hurts my heart, guys. I'm saying I can't put Brady Quinn in there because his first 2 years were so bad. It's not his fault at all, but they weren't very good. because of the terrible team that he played on. I want to say, I kind of want to say Patrick Mahomes, but I can't. I loved Patrick Mahomes coming out, but I think as good as he was, I don't know that I felt he was an all-time great at the time, because it's a system-driven production. I mean, they've had other 5,000-yard passers. I don't know that I thought he was that at the time. I think some of that might be looking back, reflecting on some guys. Who would you guys pick between Trevor and Deshaun Watson?
I think I'd go Deshaun Watson. I think the supporting cast that T-Law had in 18
It's pretty good.
was outstanding.
And he couldn't carry that team to another one.
Yeah.
When he was the driving force. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I do think he played on a much better team than what Deshaun played on. I kind of just thinking through it, guys. I'm going to have to put Matt Leinart on there. And I know that is tough to put a USC guy on there, but you know what it is and Vince, you could relate to this a little bit better because you and I are somewhat similar age. Matt Leinart, yes, he had Reggie Bush and Dwayne Jarrett, but like there were games where Matt Leinart put that team on his shoulders, including the Notre Dame game, where he just stepped up, 4th and 9, guy screaming down in his face, and he just throws the most perfect pass of his career. He did that a lot.
That's
he
the
was
best
clutch.
play of his career.
Yeah, I mean, people forget he was a big reason why. I mean, I people may disagree with this, but I thought the Reggie played terrible in the championship game that year. I thought Leinart was their best player in that game. I thought Leinart was really good in that game. I thought Lendell White was better than Reggie in that game. So Leinart, I thought, had some games where it wasn't just, oh, you're just getting the ball out there. And the difference between Leinart and Joe Burrow, because Leinart never had a single season like Joe Burrow, like not even close. As good as Matt Leinart was, he never had a season like that. But when you look at Matt Leinart, he had 2 brilliant seasons at USC. And that's why, and basically won a title and won a Heisman and was a runner-up the next year. And I actually thought he was better in the year he didn't win the Heisman than he was the year he won it. But the Heisman went to the right guy. Reggie Bush, up until the Texas game, was unbelievably good.
Yeah.
But then you could use the same counter argument that for me and Matt Leinart that I just used for Joe Burrow. There's a lot of quarterbacks that could have gone, but I think because he was so clutch is why I like that. Another thing too is I like Joe about Baker is Baker also went and won in some tough places. He went into Columbus in 2016 and absolutely smoked Ohio State. I can't. Somebody said Michael Vick. I can't put Michael Vick on there because Michael Vick was great for 1 year. Michael Vick wasn't very good the next year. Like he was solid, but he wasn't nearly as good in year 2 as a starter as he was in year 1. The year that he led them to the national title game against Florida State, that was his first year as a starter. The next year, Michael Vick passed for only 1,200 yards, had 8 touchdowns, 6 picks, and 617 rushing yards. Like that. That's like 1980s numbers of brilliance. Like that's not year 2000 numbers of brilliance. Michael Vick has the most entertaining highlight film, but I don't think Michael Vick you can say a guy who in 2 years as a starter passed for 12 and 8 touchdowns. Yeah, he was a great runner. Never ran for even 700 yards and never got to 10 touchdowns. Like Michael Vick's most touchdowns in a season, total touchdowns in a season, was 20. So, yeah, great highlight player, but he was never an elite quarterback. He became an elite quarterback in the National Football League, but he wasn't in college, in my opinion. So, but this is tough because feel like I'm picking apart guys. So, who do we got? We got Tebow, got Vince, I got Lamar Jackson for sure, Matt Leinart. I got to put Tommy Frazier in there, guys. I can't not put him in there. He won 2 titles. I got to put him in there. I'm trying to think through who my 5th guy is going to be. I feel like I'm missing guys from like the 80s. I think like Charlie Ward was brilliant. I saw a list earlier, and they had Graham Harrell in as a top 25 all-time quarterback from Texas Tech. I'm like, come on, guys. You're just looking at stats. Like, be serious. But, yeah, I'm having a tough one with this, guys. Yeah. I can't put Peyton in there because he was great statistically, but he could never win. He could never beat Florida. You start 4 years and you go, I think you go 0 for 4 against Florida. Didn't he get also blown out in the last bowl game? I can't put Peyton in there. Sorry. Baker won more big games than Peyton Manning did. Jameis Winston had one great year, but he was not great the next year. Oh, man. Andrew Luck is in the conversation for me. I think he's got to be in the conversation for me. Yeah, I can't pick a fifth. I'm just going to go recency bias and put Deshaun in there. He elevated a program to elite status that had been not elite for decades. So I'll give him that. So, yeah. That was tough because there's a lot of guys that were greats, but there's not as many of those guys that were great for multiple years. Like somebody just said Marcus Mariota. I think you could make a better case for Marcus Mariota than you could for Joe Burrow.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can have a conversation about it. You need to snark at it and laugh at it. But Marcus Mariota.
Your vendetta against Joe Burrow today is crazy.
No, I love Joe Burrow. I mean, you know how much I love CJ Carr. I've compared CJ Carr to Joe Burrow, but when I'm talking about greatness, I think greatness needs to be shown over a course of several seasons, not just one season. And when I look at look at the numbers. So you look at Joe Burrow's college stats in his final year, which is one of the best, if not the best single season I've ever seen, probably the best single season I've ever seen. The only reason I say that not definitively is because what Cam Newton did in 2010 with a far inferior team was also pretty special. I'm not putting Cam Newton in there either, but Joe Burrow that year passed for 5,600 yards and ran for 368. So his total yards in 15 games was, what's the math on that, Vince? It's about 6,000 yards and 65 touchdowns. And Marcus Mariota in his last year passed for 4,454 yards and rushed for 770 and accounted for 59 touchdowns. So he had 59 touchdowns. Joe Burrow had 65. That's not that far off. He had over 5,000 yards. Joe Burrow had 6. The year before, Marcus Mariota passed for 3,665 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 4 picks. Also ran for 715 yards and 9 touchdowns. And the year before that, passed for 2,677 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 6 picks, and rushed for 752 yards and 5 touchdowns. Joe Burrow's season before he had the great year, he passed for 2,894 yards, had 16 touchdowns and 5 picks, had 399 rushing yards and 7 picks. So for his career, Joe Burrow passed for 8,852 yards and had 820 rushing yards, 78 touchdowns, and 13 rushing touchdowns. That's 91 touchdowns. Marcus Mariota had 10,796 passing yards, had 105 passing touchdowns, also rushed for 2,237 yards and 29 touchdowns. So if you look for the entirety of the career, that's where I'm going with it. If I had to pick a quarterback to lead my team with the offense I want to run, I'm going to have a hard time not picking Joe Burrow. But it's
I guess my question is
my criteria. You can pick whatever criteria you want, Trev, but I said my criteria is for a career.
But then my only pushback would be you said it wasn't about production, but then you only listed off the production between the two. So where do you draw the line between greatness as far as what your number output is versus what you did in a single season?
What do you mean? I think
because you mentioned because you brought up
brilliant in his career.
Agreed. I'm with you there. He was, but you said with Graham Harrell, he was in the top 25. I guess
it's because that's fair because it comes off of, does your system consistently generate that type of production? And we haven't seen another Oregon quarterback produce the way that he has until Bo Nix came along in a different type of system.
Sure.
Right. So when you look at Joe Burrow, the system unleashed him. It didn't create him. That's the difference. So the difference between if you're comparing Joe Burrow's numbers to, let's say, Graham Harrell, because if we're going to have just a statistical conversation, and let's look at like the Graham Harrell conversation. So Graham Harrell college stats, and there's a kid from Washington State that passed over. Remember that kid 3-4 years ago that passed for 5,000 yards at Washington State, who's you know what I'm talking about. Graham Harrell in 2000 and 2007 passed for 5,705 yards and 48 touchdowns. The next year passed for 5,011 yards and 40-something touchdowns. But you could find other quarterbacks at Texas Tech that have done that, similar to that. And that's why it's like the system generated that level of production. Now, Graham Harrell was one of the best to run that system. Don't get me wrong here. But it was a system that produced guys like that relatively consistently. And so when I look at Oregon, they weren't producing the way that Marcus was. But it also is just look at the brilliance. Look at how good Oregon was with him. He took them to a title game. He had some talent around him, but I don't know that he didn't have the talent around him that Joe Burrow had. Marcus Mariota never had an individual season as good as Joe Burrow's. My point, Trevor, is his best individual season is closer to Joe Burrow's best season than Joe Burrow's second best season is to his second best season, and he never had a third season where Marcus is has 3,500 yards and over 30 touchdowns in his third best season. That's where I'm coming from. So, Vince, you said you had something you wanted to add before we move on here because this is
because I just want to throw a wrench into the whole conversation because I just like watching mom and dad fight. And I just want to just throw.
Come on, dude.
I'm joking. I'm joking. Eric Crouch.
I think he was overrated.
Okay.
Yeah. I
remember watching him play at Notre Dame and just thinking
won a Heisman, led them to a title game. I didn't think he should have won the Heisman. I never felt he should have won the Heisman.
I think he was a finalist that year.
So 01, right?
Yes.
Let's see here. 2001 Heisman Trophy voting. Let's see here. Rex Grossman was number 2. Ken Dorsey was number 3. Joey Harrington was number 4. David Carr was number 5. He was really good at Fresno State.
It's not an overly great group.
No, it's not. But I mean, like Rex had some really good numbers at Florida. Ken Dorsey was pretty good that year at Miami, but he was part of just an elite loaded football team. Honestly, I might have given it to David Carr, but Eric Crouch that year passed for 1,115 yards, or rushed for 1,115 yards and 18 touchdowns, and then passed for 1,500 yards, 7 touchdowns, and had 10 picks. And that was in an era like when you shouldn't have been throwing more picks than you had touchdowns. So like Tommy Frazier, let's look at Tommy's college stats. Tommy had in his 1995 season where he was a Heisman runner-up, he passed for 1,362, rushed for 604 in 11 games, had 17 passing touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns, threw 4 interceptions. Like it wasn't a given that because you played in that triple option, you were going to throw a bunch of touchdowns or a bunch of interceptions. Like it was true at Notre Dame. With Tony Rice, you're in that offense. Tony Rice is not going to throw for more. He's not going to throw for more. He's not going to throw more touchdowns than he did picks. Even Scott Frost, in his 1 full year as a starter, he threw 13 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He split. Even the year they won the title, Scott Frost threw 5 touchdowns with 4 picks. He didn't throw a bunch of picks. So that was my thing. Is I thought Eric Crouch was fun to watch, but I never thought he was like this all-time.
That's all I'm going off of. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, he was.
Lamar would be up there for me.
Yeah,
those kind of guys. Those guys are fun to watch.
Yeah, Lamar. I just like. I like guys that are like elevators. That's where I think I agree with you guys on the Deshaun Watson over Trevor Lawrence. If I'm picking a guy to run my offense, I'm probably picking Trevor. But if you just look at a guy that took a program from here to here, like Trevor benefited from what Taj Boyd and Deshaun built. Would he have been able to elevate the way that Deshaun did? I think it's a fair question. It's a very fair question. So that's where I'm at on that one. So it's a good conversation for a while. We can get some more questions.
From Coach Bent 574, using Notre Dame wide receivers from the last 10 years. Build your ideal wide receiver using the following traits: size, top end speed, quickness, hands, body control, route running, and blocking.
Go ahead, Trev.
10. So are we going back like 10 years on the calendar to 2015 or like 10 seasons back to 2016? Because that's going to change my speed answer.
Just go to 2015. It'll make it easier.
Yeah, I'll go Will Fuller for speed. Quickness, size, I'd go Chase Claypool. He was like 6'4", 238. Quickness, probably Chris Tyree when they moved him to wide receiver. If we wanted to still count him as a running back, I wouldn't push back too much. If that's the case, then I'd probably go CJ Sanders, one of those two as far as quickness. I mean, hands. It's tough not to say like Jaden Greathouse, honestly, with how well he does on contested catches. But the last three are the ones that I'm kind of struggling with. I can't think of any Notre Dame receiver that I've just really that stuck out to me in the last decade that I'd be like, yo, their body control is off the charts. I'll say this just to throw a fun one in there. I'll put EQ in there because I watched him do a cartwheel for a touchdown in 2016. The game, the final result of the game wasn't great, but that was crazy. The body control on that was nuts. And then route running and blocking, I'll just kind of leave to, with how well they run blocked well downfield last year. I would say somebody on the 2024 roster with how well the blocking was then. But outside of that, I'm not. Route running, I'm not sure. What about you guys?
My ultimate team, same answer I give almost every time. Michael Floyd in the boundary, Golden Tate in the slot, Will Fuller at Z.
It doesn't answer the question, though.
Yeah, it does. He said build your ideal wide receiver unit.
No,
right?
Your ideal wide receiver using those things, like one guy.
All those things you find in those three guys. You have size in Michael Floyd. You have top end speed in Will Fuller. You have quickness in Golden Tate. You got hands in all three in Floyd and Tate. Body control, Floyd, Tate. Route running, Floyd. Blocking, Floyd.
Last 10 years.
Okay. Then I can't use Michael Floyd. Pick whoever you want. I don't care.
Iden Benami, who's your number 2 2027 quarterback behind Peyton, Houston, and why?
If we're talking upside, it's probably Teddy Gerard. I think right now there's a big gap between Peyton Houston and Teddy Gerard today. Like who they are right now as high school players, it's today. But if you look at projecting, we talked about this when we broke his film down. I don't know how much better Peyton Houston's going to get. He's going to get a little stronger, and there's certain things he's going to learn, but he's already pretty flipping good. He's an amazing player already. With Teddy Gerard, it's all about projecting what he's going to be. He's got a lot to work on. He's got a lot of tools. He's got to work on his footwork. He's got to work on processing. He's got to clean up. As I said in the video, his weight transition, he transitions to the front foot too quickly, which causes him to lock that front foot, which causes his hips to lock up, which causes him to fight his upper body, which causes some release issues, creates some inaccuracy. But he's got 2 years of high school left. That stuff can get worked on. So you look at that combination, 6'3 plus, live arm, fast release, has a nice whipping action, good athlete. I think he's kind of like Kenny Minchie that he doesn't know how to use his athleticism yet. Like Kenny didn't really learn to use his athleticism all around until he got to Notre Dame. He used it to run around and throw, but he never used it as a runner in high school. He had like 300 career rushing yards in high school. That's it. And so I think that my number 2 would probably be him. I like Malachi Ziegler a lot. I like Peter Bork. There's a couple other quarterbacks on the board. I think it's Isaiah Abrams, I think is the kid's name, the kid from Illinois. I forget. He was on campus this summer too. He's got a lot of tools. There's some good quarterbacks in 2027, but if you talk about projecting the upside, it's Teddy Gerard.
Teddy Gerard wasn't on campus for Irish Invasion, was he?
No, he was there, I think, the day before or the day after. He was at a camp.
Gotcha.
By himself. Throwing with.
Those are the best kind.
Yeah, it's in the camp window, so it's allowed.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah. I wish he was there the day that they had Irish Invasion, but no, he wasn't. The only 27 kid that was there that was like a real prospect was Malachi. Because like the Jameson, what's his name? He want to say Jameson Crowder, but that's the kid that was a receiver at Duke. Jameson something, but he was there, and none of the other 27. The best prospects there of the 27 kids was a kid that Notre Dame's not even really looking at. That's that Derek Baker kid who all of a sudden blew up. that middle linebacker.
Yeah.
He's all of a sudden blown up. He's in top 250s now and stuff like that. And I wanted to heard it here first. But he was probably the next best 27 prospect if I had to offer somebody from Irish Invasion. The best players there outside of Malachi were 28 kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that little
that
5'11", 170-pound kid that's a freaking beast, but he's 5'11", 170.
Yeah.
A. Reagan, me and my family will be returning to Notre Dame for the SC game this fall. If Marcus Freeman can run up the score, will he? And I can't wait to see Lincoln Riley's shocked face once again.
I think he would. Marcus Freeman has shown he has a petty side that I kind of adore. If you piss him off, he's gonna. I think in general, I think there's teams Marcus Freeman would not want to run up the score on. And there are teams where he's pretty much say, I don't give a rip what you think. We're going to go out there and just hammer you. And so I think that USC and kind of some of the things that have been said and done by their and it's not even, I don't even think it's a Lincoln Riley issue. I've never heard of any kind of issue between Marcus Freeman and Lincoln Riley. I've never heard anything but respectful things being said about each other. But the recruiting coordinator who Marcus Freeman, brought with him to Notre Dame and gave a great opportunity to Notre Dame. And that recruiting coordinator did a great job in the role that Marcus Freeman opened up for him and fought for him to have. Then goes to USC and he's like, it's nice to be with a coach who actually recruits or who's a good recruiter. It's like, okay, that's going in the mental Rolodex. I'm going to remember that one. And I'm basically going to be there's a story that Magic Johnson tells about Larry Bird where he talks about Magic. It was a Christmas game and Magic was out. And so Larry says to him, he's like, okay, since you're out, I'm going to put on a show for you, for Christmas. And so he's hitting shots. And every time he hit a shot, he'd look over at Magic, that's his Magic telling the story. And I could see that pretty much Marcus Freeman doing that is every time they just bust USC up, he's looking over at Chad. That's for you. And tell Lincoln Riley, you can blame Chad for that one. Tell him to keep my name out of his mouth directly or indirectly. So yeah, and if y'all don't want to play us, this is what we're going to leave with you. This is the memory we're going to leave with you if you don't want to play us anymore. So yeah, I think he would, but I don't think he's just going to do that all the time. Because if he wanted to, they could have scored 2 more touchdowns against Purdue. If they wanted to, they wouldn't let if they let CJ run the offense and Kenny run the offense, they put at least 1 more touch. They took a knee in Purdue territory. So
it's right outside of the red zone.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll look like what people would think it would look like running up the score. I don't think they're going 2-minute and going no huddle to just put as many points on the board. It's just going to be. I think he'll keep.
But they'll run between the tackles and put it in the end zone.
I still think they'll throw. I think they're just going to run the offense. He might keep the starters in for a little while longer, but I don't think it'll be like a no huddle type thing. But yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset about it either. FYI.
Either one of you guys seen the new Superman?
I have.
No. Oh, okay. Okay.
Paul Hamilton wants to know what you think of the new Superman movie. I take both of you. Neither of you have seen it.
I haven't seen it. He tried, but the people refuse. It was an incident. Go ahead, Trev. Tell him.
Oh, yeah. So we went to the theater last Saturday to go see it, and I was super pumped. Get in there. The previews were rolling and everything, and then when the lights officially dim and the movie's going to start, it just never came on. And in 15-minute intervals, the lady at the concession stand came in and was like, hey, don't worry, we're getting management on it to figure it out. And then she did that 3 more times.
Oh, man.
And she came back in and was like, hey, come up front. We'll refund everybody. And we'll refund everybody's concessions. Yeah, it was a bummer.
That's brutal. That's brutal. So obviously you have plans to see it again, I take it. But no, I took my family. My kids really wanted to see it, specifically my youngest son. And it was entertaining. It was good. I will say this, and I said it on last night's show because we kind of talked about it a little bit. I was hearing all the stuff on social media about it being woke and all this other stuff because the director wouldn't shut up.
That's what the
about it.
director said.
Right.
And his
It's
stupid
not-
brother said. Yeah.
It's not that. Like I purposely was looking for stuff and I didn't see it. Like it
that
was an entertaining
so
movie.
dumb. Like I know
yes.
some right-wing people who went and saw it and they're like, dude, I don't know what he's talking about.
Right.
Now, the issues I've seen that I've heard people say about the movie are more about just like too many characters in one movie with no build up. Like there's a lot of that. Superman just gets beat up for 2 hours, which is like, like
it's weird.
Like
the first scene, he's bloody.
Yeah,
you've never seen Superman bleed before.
I don't want to see that, but apparently, I guess I don't know. It's like the comics were that. I don't give a crap. Like I don't want to see Superman get beat up. Otherwise, he's not freaking Superman,
right?
But I haven't heard anyone that actually saw the movie that wasn't looking like. I promise you, if Clay Travis goes to see it, he'll probably do a show about how woke it was because that's just his shtick.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like Clay Travis doesn't care about the WNBA, but he does nothing but talk about Caitlin Clark and racism and all this other kind of crap. Because like when you're looking for it, you're gonna find it wherever you want to find it. Like. Other than people like that, everyone I've seen, no one said it's woke.
Right.
But the stupid director and his stupid brother go out and try to make it that way. It's like, just shut up and make a movie. We don't care what you think about politics.
And the theater was
full.
full.
And make a movie. Yeah.
People enjoyed it. As much as it annoys me when people clap at the end of a movie, like people were clapping at the end of the movie. You know what I mean? So like people enjoyed it. It was good. It was entertaining. It was, nonstop action. A lot of characters. I do agree with that.
I have heard everyone that I respect who's reviewed the movie has complained about that and Superman getting beat up, but then will say, but I was entertained.
Correct.
I was entertained for a couple hours.
Good jokes.
That's
like
what
there was
movie's supposed to be.
Exactly.
It's like, did you leave entertained? Exactly. No, it's not going to win an Emmy or an Oscar or whatever else, but did you leave entertained?
Exactly. And I don't like what they did with Supergirl at the very end. That kind of ticked me off a little bit. But that's kind of a
not too many spoilers. Not too many.
That's what I'm saying. I just said I don't like it, so I'll let you guys make your own judgment on that. But they were clearly setting up a movie for her. You know what I mean? Like that's what they were attempting to do at the very end. Had nothing to do with the plot. Had nothing to do with the storyline. It's just they're trying to set her up for a movie. I just didn't like kind of who they made her out to be, which was not great. But other than that, it was entertaining. I like the dog. I know there's been some.
Well, that's from the comics, right?
100%. Yes.
Crypto.
He was always in the comics. Yes. And I thought he was great,
So you can't complain about a movie's direction when you don't understand the direction. Like, so personally, I don't know that I'll go see it in the theater because I don't really care about the comic book Superman. Sure. But I know going in, it's about the comic book Superman.
Right.
Right. I like Christopher Reeve Superman. I actually liked Henry Cavill as Superman. I liked Man of Steel. I thought that was very entertaining. There were parts of it I didn't love, but I thought it was a very entertaining movie. I would have rather seen him stay as Superman. One of the things that's going to hurt me, though, is the only other movie that I've seen that actor in is the new Twister, and he was a giant D-bag in that movie. So it's like it's hard for me to now look at him as like, because you guys remember, you guys know this. I've told you this. I was Superman for like 5 straight Halloweens when I was a kid. I had a homemade, legit, really good homemade Superman costume that my mom made. And, so, I mean, I love Superman, but I love the Christopher Reeve Superman.
Oh,
I don't
for
really
sure.
care about the comic. I was not a comic book guy as a kid. But I know that going in, so I'm not going to go watch it and then complain about, oh, I can't believe that this wasn't in the original movie. Which one? With Christopher Reeve or George Reeves? Like which Superman are you going to complain about?
There was one guy complaining. He's like, "Why do I need to see a dog with a cape? I don't know where that came from."
Oh, the comics.
Like, dude, I didn't even read comics, and I know that's where the dog comes from.
Right?
Like, come on, man.
Yeah, like Green. I mean, it's clearly like they're trying to set up Justice League, like Marvel.
Right.
The problem is Marvel had several movies leading into Avengers.
Yes.
They didn't introduce all the characters, right? But they had introduced Iron Man. They had introduced, like War Machine had been introduced, correct? And I don't even think he wasn't. They'd introduced Captain America. They'd introduced Thor. The first Thor came out before Avengers as well, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We all know who Hulk is. Like the only characters they introduced in that, the only character I remember them introducing in that movie was probably Hawkeye, right?
Yeah, and Thor.
Well, Thor, I thought one had already come out.
No, Hawkeye was introduced in Thor.
The first
Thor. Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember that one.
Yeah, he was.
Oh,
he
in
was,
the scene where he goes to get his hammer. Yes,
Yep.
now I remember. So yeah, I mean, we had pretty much been introduced to just about every main character in Avengers in some capacity. I just would have liked to have seen that in this one. Like, I just give me some sort of
spread it out a little bit.
yeah. And I don't
Spread
need to
it
do
out.
the origin story again. We all know the origin story, but just I didn't. I'd rather not see like start off with Avengers and then have Iron Man, then have
They
Captain
didn't
America.
really. There was no origin story for Superman in this movie, which was interesting because I was anticipating that. They didn't really talk about him when he was younger. They didn't, he went back and visited home, but like they didn't really talk about that kind of stuff. It was, I don't want to give away too much, but like he's well into his time as Superman when the movie starts.
Which the original movie was that way.
Yes,
like
they did flashbacks,
right?
But not very many.
It was just a very quick, like, hey, this is how we got there, and this kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And by the way, Black Widow was not introduced in Avengers. She was introduced in Iron Man 2. She was remember she was the Natasha or Natalie, something like that. She was his fake secretary. So yeah, she was introduced in Iron Man 2. So the only one I wasn't sure was Hawkeye. That's the one I forgot. But yeah, he was in and obviously Loki was introduced in Thor. So yeah,
I forgot about it too. I watched Thor like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah. I was gonna say you came up with that quick.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that.
I did too until it was the scene in the desert when he went to get his hammer. I was like, hold on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, PJC 1122. How would you rank these three safeties at the same point in their recruitment? Joey O'Brien, Jadon Blair, Kyle Hamilton.
I'd go Hamilton 1. I'd probably go Joey 2 and Jadon 3, all very, very close. Jadon made a really big jump as a senior. Let's see if Joey can make a similar jump. But Jadon is better than where Jadon was better as a senior than where Joey is now, based off junior film. But if you just compare their junior films, I think Joey's a little bit ahead of Jadon by a skosh. But they were all like, I graded Kyle Hamilton as a 5-star player, but he would not have graded as a junior as a 5-star in my current grading system, because back then I included upside in the grade. Like I've said, somebody said, well, you don't have any 5 stars. And I said, well, I would if I was doing a rivals ranking or an on-3 ranking, because they just have one grade. So I would have included so like Joey O'Brien, I have as a 4.5 star. Javion Osborne, I have a 4.5 star. I'm trying to think of, I have a couple others. Rodney Dunham as a 4.5 star guy. I do not have right now in my system Ebenezer Utade as a top 50 player, because I take the upside out and look at where he is right now. He's raw. He's got to get bigger and stronger. But if I added the upside grade into all those guys, I'd have Joey as a 5-star. I'd have Javion Osborne as a 5-star. I would have probably have Rodney Dunham as a 5-star, although the knee injury might give me a little bit of a pause. I'd have Ebenezer as a borderline 5-star, which he is at on 3, and I would have Kadon Finley as a top 50 player if I included upside. So keep that in mind when you're evaluating my rankings compared to those. So it's hard for me to say for sure what Kyle's grade would have been relative to where these guys are, because I had a different grading system then. But just off my gut, I'd say, because Vince, you remember, I mean, I was talking about Kyle Hamilton as a sophomore. When he was a 3-star, I was like, dude, this guy, I don't care what you guys say, this guy's a stud. And they finally figured it out,
right,
and ranked him appropriately. But which I get why I was ahead of them, because he wasn't being, if you're a national recruiting analyst, he wasn't being recruited by Ohio State and Georgia at the time. He was being recruited by Notre Dame and some smaller schools. Notre Dame got on him very early. Kudos to Mike Oko and Todd Light for that one. But yeah, that's how I'd rank him. But if I was doing a top 50 ranking, I'd have like Kyle at 15, Jadon at 21, Joey at 21 and Jadon at 35 based off junior film. They're all dudes.
Irish fan 15, thoughts on Dave Portnoy being brought in for the Big Noon kickoff show. Personally, I'm very against it, as that show actually has provided strong football analysis, unlike game day. Hope it doesn't change now.
You guys want to share your opinions on this first? Because I might go off.
I don't like it. I think Big Noon Kickoff is looking for that, I guess you could call it spontaneous personality in what College Game Day has with Pat McAfee. And I don't think Dave Portnoy is the guy, because Pat McAfee goes about it in a different way. I think he feeds into where he's at and plays into like the college atmosphere that he's going to, which I actually kind of like from an entertainment standpoint. But I just don't find Dave Portnoy entertaining. Like I don't watch what he does on Barstool, and like the best thing that he does has nothing to do with sports. It's his pizza review. So literally the best thing he does on Barstool, and it has nothing to do with sports. I don't like it. He's also very, very, very biased to Michigan. I mean, he's openly gone out there and said, like, I will donate X amount of millions of dollars for Michigan to go out and get a quarterback. And now he's going to be on a show that primarily covers like Big Ten games. So I don't like it.
Yeah, we talked about this last night. That's where the whole Fox FS1, conversation started, that we were having that conversation about, that we talked about before. And like, it makes sense that they're going to have like a Barstool show on FS1. Like, okay, cool. Like, whatever. That's fine. That makes sense. Because it's kind of a podcast situation. Having him on Big Noon Kickoff makes zero sense, because I have never seen anything that he has done that tells me he knows anything about college football. He's just as super.
He's a Michigan fan. That's
he's a
all
super fan with a lot of
Very
money.
Wealthy fan.
Like that, you know what I mean? Like, that's who he is. And look, if that's who you are, cool. Like, I don't have a problem. Like, I don't want to listen to him, but if that's who you are, cool. Like, I have no problem with that. But why would you put him on a national pregame show where you talk about other teams? I just don't think he has the knowledge base. And so why would I watch him and care what he has to say? Like, that, as a fan of college football, that is my thought about him being on that show. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It's a shtick. It is. And again, he's never done this before. He's never been an analyst. He's never, like, what is his role going to be? Are they only going to bring him out when they're talking about Michigan? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. And on top of it, it was a pretty good show before. And I feel like they're taking a strong turn, and I don't like the direction that it's going. So that's disappointing.
I think it's a great move if your goal is to always be second place and never have a shot to overtake ESPN.
There you go.
What they're trying to do is they're trying to recreate Pat McAfee. But here's the thing. I don't enjoy Pat McAfee. I don't. I just my personal opinion, I don't find that type of personality entertaining. I find it obnoxious. A couple things about it, though. I don't think Pat McAfee's a jerk. Like, he says some things, I'm like, dude, but that's he. If you've ever lived in Pittsburgh and you know what a Yinzer is, like, that's just kind of like, he's not trying to be a jerk. That's just how they communicate. Like, if it just doesn't entertain me. But you look at all the money he's given to different charities and the money he seems like a good dude.
Right.
I just don't find him entertaining. I don't think it's funny for a guy to be drinking beers and getting kind of buzzed when he's in the middle of doing a show. It's just his personality and mine are very different in some ways and a little bit too much alike in other ways. I think that's why I don't find him entertaining. But he's like what works for Pat McAfee is, like, I think that's who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's trying to be something he's not. And he's not a company shill usually. Everybody has to do it, but he's got into some head-to-heads with execs there and stuff like that. And I have a level of respect for that. But, like, I just don't personally enjoy it, but I'm not like, get him off the air. It's like, I just don't enjoy it, and so I don't watch it. But Dave Portnoy is an obnoxious, pompous, disrespectful clown who has had a great business idea, and so props to him for the business idea that led to Barstool. But there's very little about Barstool that I find entertaining or knowledgeable. I tried watching a show with I don't know what the guy's name is. He's got like a goat beard or whatever, and then this other blonde-haired guy, and they're just yelling insults to each other the entire time in a very disrespectful tone. I'm like, dude, if you ever talk to me like that, like, I'm still pissed about something that happened on this show 45 minutes ago. Like, and it was nothing like that. it's just one of those things where like that's not entertainment for me. That's just you're a bunch of your whole shtick is to be obnoxious. I don't think Pat McAfee's shtick is to be obnoxious. I think Pat McAfee's just being Pat McAfee, which is why I think that's more endearing to people than what Dave Portnoy does, because he's just a jerk. Like his whole shtick is to be antagonistic jerk. And I don't enjoy that. And I don't think he offers any. I've yet to hear really anybody there's a lot of people at 247 at Barstool that I've like haven't listened to. I've only listened to like a few people, but it's like 0 for 3. I'm not going to go for 4. I'm not going to waste my time on that. So it's not entertaining for me. It's that cheap modern say something outrageous in an obnoxious way to get people to pay attention to it. There's nothing to it. Nothing to it. And I feel like, Vince, you said it. You took a show that was about analysis, man. Like it was great. I love Big Noon Kickoff. That's the only pregame show I watch because I mean, I can disagree with Mark Ingram, but he's talking football.
Right, exactly.
I can disagree with Matt Leinart, but he's talking football. I can disagree with Brady Quinn or Urban Meyer, but they're talking football. And it's a football disagreement where it's like, dude, I just don't even like to hear your voice right now because you're offering nothing of substance or value. And that's why I just you're trying to be, and I get why they're doing it because they're trying to find their version of Pat McAfee with a guy that's clearly popular. I mean, so whoever's making Barstool popular is going to be tuning in. So it'll probably work. Sadly, you just lost a viewer though, and maybe 3 viewers from what I'm seeing in the reaction here. I don't. It depends on what his role is. If his role is to come on for a segment, I'll probably just watch it and mute that segment. If he's going to be like as involved in it as Pat McAfee's in it, I won't watch. I won't watch it. So yeah, I've there's very other than just respecting that he had an idea that he turned into $1 billion business, which I do respect.
Sure.
There's nothing else that I respect about Dave Portnoy or enjoy about Dave Portnoy. So I won't be watching. So, but it'll probably work. I mean,
sad
he
but
didn't,
true.
he didn't make all that money, and Barstool's not popular for no reason. There's people to watch.
Yeah.
I just fortunately don't know any of those people. Fortunately.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Barstool. I will say that. All right, Tyler Evans, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate you very much. With Oklahoma's AD retiring next year, does the hot seat for Brent Venables, is it more on fire now?
Oh, yeah.
New
Anytime
ADs
the
always
guy
want
that
their own
hired
guy.
you,
Yeah.
you see ADs that want their own guy when they are walking into a situation with a successful coach.
Correct.
It's just the arrogance of people in those positions, which I get. I mean, if I got hired as a head coach at a college, I probably want my own guys, even if the guy that was there had been successful. I mean, I'd interview him and give him a chance to win me over, but you always kind of you want your guys. I get it, but no, he's going to have to win.
The leash just got a lot shorter.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that.
He's going to have to win
because, and I get why ADs want their own guy because their fate is tied to the success of the football program when you're at a school like Oklahoma or Alabama or Notre Dame or whatever the case may be, right? So you want a guy you chose to be in that spot because it affects you. Like, I get it.
I mean,
but
do you think if Marcus Freeman would have gone 8-5 last year, that Pete Bavach would be like, everything is wonderful, he's my guy for the next 10 years? No, you got to win. And
exactly.
And if Brent Venables wins, the AD will love him and keep him on. It's not like he could if he is a national runners up this year, he's going to fire him. Well, Oklahoma standard is national titles, and I don't like you, so I'm going to fire you. I doubt it. I mean, highly doubt it, but you'd have to be a complete incompetent boob to do that, and I don't think that the new AD will most likely be that. So,
that's great.
If he wins, he'll be okay. But if he doesn't take a big jump this year, then he'll struggle.
Right.
I've heard from people that know him that Brent Venables is a likable guy. He's a bit weird, You know, but that's who he is. Like when he says those weird things, you're like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like that statement doesn't make sense. He said some of these really weird, like, you know, something about a fire hose. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that's the expression that you meant to say there. But that's just who he is. He's just that kind of really intense guy. I've heard from people in the business that he's a very likable person. People like working with him and to varying degrees. And, you know, everybody's got their flaws. We all have our flaws, but I've heard he's a likable guy. So I don't think it's like, you know, if you're a jerk, you better win. I don't think it's like, I think if you're a likable guy and you win, you're going to have a longer leash. But walking in, he better win this year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he better win more, you know, 9-3 regular season and win a bowl game at least.
Yeah.
If you want,
he was in the neighborhood of having to win this year, but it just became more.
He's had a losing season 2 out of 3 years at Oakland.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're correct, Vince. He already had to win with his current boss.
Right.
To a degree. You talk about a new guy, it umps the ante big time.
Exactly.
That's a good question.
It's a great question.
Good question, Tyler.
From Aiden Benami, love the fact that Notre Dame has a top 10 recruiting class, maybe finished top 12, and is not in the top 10 for paying roster that NACOS put out, tied for 17th. Great to see.
Notre Dame could pay more than any school in the country, and you'll never know it.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
It's like when people talk about, here's the highest paid coaches in college football. You never see.
Because they don't have to tell you.
Right. Here's what they pay their assistant coaches. They don't put that in there. Why? Because they don't have to.
Right.
The reason people know this about these colleges is because they do Freedom of Information Act, you know, at FOIA requests. Then that they get the information. Hey, I want to know the salary of all your employees. Well, that includes assistant coaches and all that stuff. Hey, I want to know what your expenditures were on this. That's why you see, you know, programs that that are worth the most this or that. And you never see Notre Dame on there. You never see Northwestern on there. You never see Duke on there. You rarely see Stanford on there. And so, you know, I don't think just because Notre Dame's not on there, it doesn't mean that they're not top 10. They may not be. I don't know. That's the whole point. We don't know. But I'll be shocked if the Notre Dame class is in the, like, maybe finish top 12. Like, you got to stop looking at 24/7 sports, brother. That's what I'm just going to tell you right now. That's that joke network has Notre Dame's class like 5th right now. But as of a couple days ago, it may be different. But as of a couple days ago, On3 had Notre Dame, I believe, number 1 on their ranking. Now, you got to remember, both of those networks have 2 rankings. So when you go to the On3 ranking and you look at the URL, it'll say industry-team. That's their industry ranking that takes into ESPN and 247 Sports rankings into account. If you just look at the On3 rankings, their own, they have Notre Dame number 2, see, 0.059 behind Georgia. And they're 0.7 ahead of USC, so they're closer to number 1 than they are number 3. And despite having 4 fewer commitments than Georgia, they're that close. Their average rating is higher than Georgia's. The only team in the top 5 that has a higher rating than Notre Dame is Alabama. And they're 0.03 ahead of Notre Dame, where Notre Dame is 0.61 ahead of Georgia, who's ahead of them. So I just don't see a scenario where Notre Dame falls out of the top 10 unless they just drop all their recruits for anyone other than 247 Sports, who just don't need to get into that today. But y'all know how I feel about their evaluation and rankings process. So, yeah, I don't think they really have a clue. I think they probably cobble some things together based on things they're told from recruits, but they don't have an idea of how much Notre Dame pays.
Yeah, that's the only way they would know is if they're, you know, but they're not going to go through the entire 95-man roster, 115-man roster, or whatever it is right now to find out what everybody's getting paid.
They're probably using like their own valuations.
Right, exactly.
So I don't, yeah. Somebody said, is Nako super young or does he have a baby face? He looks 12.
I don't even know who
I think it's probably a little bit of both. He looks very young. He's their like transfer portal guru guy. And
I see.
He's the guy who's Nico's dad went after and was like attacking him. I don't particularly care for the things that Pete Nakos does. I don't get mad at Pete Nakos for because he's doing what his bosses tell him to do. He's literally doing his job. He got hired to do that, and he's doing that, you know. And what I think he reported about Nico was kind of made sense and fit everything else we heard about it. But But no, he looks 12. But he also is young. He's probably in his 20s.
Sure.
I don't think he's that old. But yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah, he is. He's got a baby face. Let's go.
A. Reagan, what games are the best to rewatch through this last miserable stretch of the offseason?
I mean,
Well, I've already watched the entire college football playoff minus Ohio State. So for Notre Dame's run, I should
what
say.
are you talking about? I thought the playoffs ended after they beat Penn State.
Right.
That's what I thought.
I've really enjoyed watching those 3 games that Notre Dame won.
In
for sure.
puzzled fashion, because I don't remember all 3 games they won. What other games were there? I don't remember that.
I have enjoyed that.
I
My
must
wife's
have had
like,
a
"Why are
concussion."
you watching Notre Dame football?" I'm like,
hey, I haven't experienced this in a long time. Okay, like anything from 1988, anything from 1989, except for the Miami game, anything from 1990, except for the Stanford game, and the Colorado game, anything from 1992, except for the Stanford game, anything from 1993, except for the Boston College game. Anything from 05 except for the Michigan State game and the Ohio State, the Fiesta Bowl. I mean, I know that they lost the USC game. I've watched that again. It was still a phenomenal game. That was a tremendous game. I just turned it off right before the fourth. They overturned the penalty. I just, in my mind, the game ends when Corey Mays drills Matt Leinart, knocks the ball out of bounds. That's when the game ended. When the Notre Dame players start running the field, click, turn game off. So that's where I'm at. So 06, I enjoy the Penn State game and the final drive, the Michigan State game. And that's the one game I watch all of it because I actually enjoy them falling behind big because you know what happens. That was an entertaining game. And then I just watched the final drive against UCLA. And then I didn't really like the 2012 season was fun to go through, but there's not a lot of games from that year that I like go back and like, ooh, that was a fun, entertaining game. There's a lot of boring football from that season.
Yes. Sloppy football from
yeah.
that season.
And
just,
then
yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's some games from 2018 that I'll rewatch. Michigan, it's a game that I'll rewatch. You know what game? There's only one game from 21 that I enjoy watching, and that's the Florida State game. Just watching Jack Cohn just carve up Florida State in that game. Like his introductory game at Notre Dame was like, wow, that's a quite a welcome to Notre Dame game. It threw for like 366 yards, and he was very good in that game. But his first game was a whole lot better than Marcus Freeman's first game at Notre Dame because he was the D coordinator on that team. So, but you know what's funny is that game also showed something about Marcus Freeman. I remember talking to a parent of a Notre Dame defensive player, and remember that long touchdown run? Marcus Freeman came to the players, and instead of yelling at him for being out of spot, he said, "Guys, that's me. I got the call in wrong. That's on me." And like that was something that I had parents of players tell me like that. My kid was moved by that. Like he's like they were waiting to just get tore up when they got over there, and he was like, "That's on me. I made the wrong call, and let's move on and fix it."
And that set the foundation for who he was, though, because
total buy-in
from that point forward. Not only did the players buy in, but he has taken responsibility for anything that has happened negatively,
like not just publicly,
that's
like not just because Ryan Kelly would do that in publicly, and then he'd just rip them in behind the scenes.
Right.
Like, this isn't something that was shared publicly. This is something that was told to me by, and then I talked to a couple other people that were around, and they're like, "Yeah, that's exactly how it happened." Like, yeah, he completely owned a couple things that went wrong in that game, and that there was 100% buy-in from the players after that.
Yep,
100%. Now he may not have believed it. I think he did. But he may not have, but it's just like, dude, what they screwed it up. I can either rip them a new one, or I can be like, you know what, that's on me. Let's make some corrections. Let's figure this out. But there's been total buy-in from him. That's why the things like that are why the players believed in him.
Correct.
Now, he doesn't look. We've been in practice. Marcus Freeman will get after your butt now.
Absolutely.
He's not like, that's my bad that you missed that tackle on prime. He'll get after your butt. but it's. I mean, he takes ownership, and so that's yeah. I there's a reason why the players like him as much as they did back then, and still do. But I'm just referring to that team that pushed for him to be the head coach is what I'm referring to. This is funny.
From Mark Avalone, Harry Heistand comes out of retirement to prove to his grandkids who tease him that he is only an O-line coach. He is now your OC. What type of offense? How does he recruit skill and call plays?
I mean, he's going to want 5 elite running backs, tight ends. Like he's going to want a bunch of Michael Mayers and Troy Nicholas's, guys that can block and catch the ball. His starting Z will be a Tyler Eifert type of player, and the starting boundary will probably be like an Eli Raritan type of player, and a running quarterback that can throw it up like 90 yards. Like that, they're going to run inside zone, duo, counter, buck sweep, and they're just going to come match. I mean, that's
play action and just chuck it.
Yes. What's funny is like Harry Heistand, I don't know, ever had interest in being a coordinator. He likes coaching O-line, and now he has a very big role in designing the run game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, look, this is our game plan. No, go call it, and I'll coach my guys up. Doesn't mean he didn't have say in like, hey, coach, what do we like here in this 3rd and 1? Like, but as far as like being that type of role, I don't know that that's something he ever had interest in. But that's a funny question. That's how does he recruit skill? He'd have his position coaches do that.
Yeah,
like
100%.
We're gonna have the baddest offensive line in the country, so you better give me some dudes to work behind it. That would be the motto. But I think he'd probably prefer like a Lamar Jackson type of quarterback, a guy that can throw, in all seriousness, a guy that can throw, like legit drop back and throw the football, but also a guy that's very dynamic and can make some plays, get in. Because like the thing about that is, I mean, it is a plus if you have the right quarterback. It's not something you need, but if you have it, it's nice where you can get that extra hat in the run game because you can use your running back as a lead blocker and your quarterback's the ball carrier. But most coaches don't need that. It's just nice if you have it. So that's what I think.
One thing's for sure, that offensive line would be huge.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
It'd be filled with a bunch of high school tackles.
That's right. Yep. Even Sam Mustipher was built like a center, but he was a left tackle in high school.
Mm-hmm. From another one from Mark, what are your thoughts on Canadian football pre-snap motion rules for offensive skill positions, like or dislike, and how would it affect college football if the rule was adopted?
I hate it. It's one thing I didn't like about Arena Football League, or at least the Arena was trying to be gimmicky with it, but it's what I grew up on. It's like I grew up on football being played a certain way, and that doesn't mean like, okay, but when you were growing up, weren't receivers in 3-point stances? Yes, but that's not what I'm like. That degree of it is not just. This is if I grew up in Canada, I'd probably love it. If that's what I grew up on.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, why don't I like modern baseball? Because of the era I grew up in and the baseball I fell in love with. And so like, that's
why I hate the runner on second and extra innings. There's just stuff I don't like about the new game. And I mean, I get it. I understand it, but I don't have
it's
to
all
like
for
it.
TV. You're changing the game for television, not to make a better game. You're making a better product, like an entertaining product. Yeah. But how would it affect college football? It would change the way you have to cover.
Oh, yeah.
Completely change the way you have to cover.
It'd be real hard to do press coverage with a guy sprinting at you for 10
I would
straight
just
yards.
be like, stand there, and as soon as he snaps the ball, spear him.
Just
just spear him. Like that's what I do.
It'd be so hard though. You give a guy 10 yards of a running start.
It. That's the thing is like you just knock him. I mean,
it's like clothesline him. Just
whoops. I went to press jam him right in the freaking face.
Went to press jam him with my feet.
Yeah.
Just drop. Yeah,
you'd start getting penalties like the dude from Necessary Roughness, illegal, whatever. He's doing like the karate moves. Oh, forget it. 15 yards, first down.
Indianapolis has an arena football team, and I forgot they played with some of those rules. So I hadn't watched arena football in so long. We went to watch a game just for fun. It was cool, but I was like, I saw how far back the line or the wide receivers were lining up. I was like, what in the world?
And they get a huge running
Yeah.
start.
Yeah,
Like,
that was
it's
wild.
nuts.
Mm-hmm. It worked for arena. It doesn't work for a giant field.
Yeah.
And the CFL has I don't know about the width of the CFL field, but I believe it's longer
because there's a 55-yard line,
yeah.
and then there's a 20-yard end zone.
Yeah.
So like the end zone just looks like an island. Like it's huge.
Like how do you cover that giant end zone? Like
it's nuts.
Like when does the red zone start? At the 3? Like
it's wild, man.
Yeah. I don't know what the width is of CFL field.
No, Father David says it's wider.
Wider. So yeah, they also have 12 players in the field, correct?
You got me on that one.
I think there's 12 players in the field as well.
Okay.
Which then accounts for some of the length and width, but I mean that's one extra dude. I don't.
Yeah, the width of a CFL football field is 65 yards wide.
Wow. That's another 10 yards. That's 5 on each side. Or, I mean, more than that, but because it's 53 and a third, I believe. So, wow, that's a lot of extra space if you think about it.
Yeah,
man.
Pass.
That's
but
crazy.
Again, I'd probably feel different if I grew up in Canada and that's what I grew up playing.
Yeah, and watching and all of that. Yeah, for sure.
Oh boy.
I think there's a super chat in there too, Brian.
I just saw it. I'm trying to find it from Remington.
Yes, from Remington Jeans, my guy. I promise I'll be getting back to you soon. How much of a benefit is it moving forward for Notre Dame to have the reputation of aggressive special teams? Even if we are not playing aggressive every game, it's still in the back of the mind of the opposing team.
I think so. I think there's definitely something. Special teams in a lot of ways is a mind game because Vince, I think you can acknowledge this, even though your child is a kicker and having got to know your son over the years, I think he is a pretty strong-willed kid, but I think you'll also admit that there's a lot of kids who are good kickers who aren't the most mentally tough guys. And I don't mean that they're soft, but there's a reason why some guys are clutch in the fourth quarter and some guys that choke in the fourth quarter of big kicks. And so a lot of it is getting in their heads, and if you come after a punter a couple times, like I don't remember the Georgia punter really taking a lot of time to boom any after the first 3 times he got drilled by Bryce Young, and so I think there's something to that, like you saw it in 2022 under Marty Biaggi. Like after a while, teams were just quick kicking it, even when Notre Dame wasn't coming.
Yeah. And
like they're just like, we're not.
It makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not even dealing with it. We're not.
Nope. Not gonna take the chance.
No.
Just like they've blocked 39 kicks this year, so we're just not even gonna take a chance on it. It's just like maybe I'm slightly off on the number, but you're just not gonna do it.
Yeah. But it does the point that you make about it being in the back of their head and all of those things, it's absolutely accurate.
Well, here's a perfect example. Notre Dame's kick returns in the 3 games leading up to the Pitt game. They had 3 against Duke, 3 against Louisville, 4 against USC, 1 of which was returned for a touchdown. Their number of kick returns after that for the next 5 games, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's just kind of how it goes, right? I mean, I think that plays a big
that's the
role.
way it is with like punts and kickoffs and all of that stuff. It's just like why the way the game is set up right now, with fair catches and all of those things, and with the power of a lot of kickers, like just kick it out of the back of the end zone and you're starting on the 25. Like it is what it is. You're not going to get scored on. Like the 25 is worse than the 20. I get that, but you're not going to get scored on one play. So just kick it out of the back of the end zone and call it a day, unless you have a lot of faith in your coverage team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And some do. Like Notre Dame has a lot of faith in their coverage team. That's why they were kicking into the corner a lot, right, on kickoffs. But I mean, I see why people just put it out of the back of the end zone too. It's a risk reward thing.
Well, I had somebody tell me the other day, they said, do you think that, and I think this was a private conversation, it said like, I think Jaden Harrison was a bust. I don't think that Like, I was expecting more from him. Do you agree? And I said, well, no, I don't. He goes, well, what do you mean? I said, do you know how many kick return opportunities he even had last year?
Yep.
He's like, what do you mean? I said, bro, he returned 12 kicks in 16 games. Like, nobody
with all the
kicked to
points that Notre Dame scored,
Right.
it was a lot of kickoffs.
Why didn't they kick to him? Because they watched him take 2 back to the house last year and be an All-American kick returner. They weren't going to give him that chance. Georgia was dumb enough to give him a chance, and he made him pay for it. Like, there weren't a lot of opportunities for him. He had remember he had that long return against Northern Illinois? I forget which part of the game it was. He, over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, he only had 1 kick return, and it went for 25 yards against Louisville. They weren't going to give him a chance. And so, like, that's part of it. It's like they did that. They weren't even going to give him a chance to change the game,
right?
Because of what he had done the year before. So
yeah, teams weren't kicking to him. And to your point, like, there was like multiple games where Notre Dame maybe trotted out their kick return unit onto the field twice.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Purdue was held, like, they held Purdue to 7, they held Miami of Ohio to 3, they held Stanford to 7, they held Florida State to 3. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah. Somebody asked, they have ghost runners in Major League Baseball now? No, they actually literally put a dude on second base. But it's the same principle.
Yeah.
It's the same exact principle as when we were kids. It's pretty dumb.
It just completely changes the strategy in extra innings. Like, now teams play for extra innings so that they can get a runner on second and push them across and all. Like, anyway, that's a different conversation. That's a different mailbag. All right, Josh Phillips, best college stadium you guys have been in. This will be interesting. Brian probably has the most.
Let's say other than Notre Dame Stadium, because that's my favorite stadium to be in.
Yes.
Like, I'm being honest. Like, that is. Now, that's also because I'm a Notre Dame fan, but of course, the stadium that you're a fan of is going to be the one you enjoy most being in.
For sure.
Other than that, I'd probably say Georgia, because you got to think about it. My experience in these stadiums is in the press box.
Right.
And so that was probably it, because it's an outdoor press box, and we're like right in between the upper and upper level and lower level. So we have like this great view of the game, and it's outdoors. So you're like, you're feeling the environment. You're, I've got, me, I always got my headphones on, and I can feel I'm vibrating when Georgia does something good. They didn't do a lot of good things that game because it was a defensive battle. And it was a pretty awesome environment. The walk to the stadium was pretty cool. I thought the people that I ran into at Georgia were super friendly and nice. So I'd probably say Georgia. The Big House is a cool place to be for a game. It is. I mean, it's an old school stadium. It's massive. But when I look at it, it's also partly like, think of all the amazing games that have been here. So, like, yes, I hate Michigan and I hate Michigan fans. And Vince, I think I've told you this, but when we were going so Angela bought me tickets in the year that Michigan went to the championship game against Louisville in basketball. Angela bought me tickets to a game that year because I used to be a Michigan basketball fan, big Michigan basketball fan. And so she bought me tickets, and so we're driving up, and you know me, like how I am with nostalgic with college football. Like, I can hate your team, but still think it's pretty cool that I'm at your stadium because of all the great games, blah, blah, blah. We drive by that big old block in by the same, and I turn to Angela, and I'm like, I turn to look at it, I'm getting ready to tell Angela about, man, this is so cool. I was about to start listing all the great games being played, and she goes, boo! Starts yelling, boo. Man, I love this woman, and then I brought a mug home. And she's like, you're not bringing that mug home. Like, souvenir mugs had Michigan basketball.
Oh, yeah. Like
my
drink.
I'm bringing it home. You're not bringing it home. I'm bringing it home. You're not bringing it home. I'm a grown man. I'm bringing this home. She was fine. So I'm thinking, I won one. All right.
No, you didn't.
Like 5 years. I'm thinking I won one. So the bottom of the mug, it's like, this big old mug, and the bottom of it is clear. And it's like when you get a stadium. So I finished drinking it. And at the bottom of it, she had written "Go Irish." Here's the best part. She wrote it backwards so that I could read it properly in Sharpie. And I get done reading it, and she had written "Go Irish" in the bottom of the Michigan basketball. And I said, I love this woman so much. Like, I lucked out. I married up. But still, though, like, being there in 2011, the game sucked. The ending of the game sucked. But that was a pretty cool, like, man, you think about all the games were played there. I felt that being on the field at the Coliseum, that stadium sucks. But being on the field at the Coliseum thinking like, dude, this is the field where they had Super Bowl I. This is where they had an Olympics. This is where Notre Dame and USC have played epic game after epic game. And then you look, because I'm looking straight ahead at the torch and all that. And then I look to the right and I look to the left. I'm like, God, this stadium is a dump. Like it is a dump. So I didn't really love that one. I mean, Pitt doesn't have their own stadium. You know who's got a pretty cool little stadium is Wake. Wake Forest has like a little, almost like a really cool FCS stadium is almost what Wake Stadium is like. No end zones. They've got like some like fancy things in one end zone. The other one's open. So that's like for like a little small place. They've got a pretty cool stadium. Clemson's, I like Clemson Stadium. I just think it's just a traditional bowl. There's nothing like special about it, but it's just like there's not a bad seat in the house, in my opinion. Walking around it. Bad experiences there as a Notre Dame fan, but the place is cool. I'm trying to think of some other places that I've been that I liked. Spartan Stadium's just kind of it is what it is. It's it's nothing. You guys have both been to Spartan Stadium, right?
I have, and I was in the press box, and it's the nicest press box I've ever been.
Very nice press box, yes.
Yeah. So that
were you at Michigan in 2019?
Yeah,
their upgraded press box is pretty good too.
Yeah, agreed. And Purdue's and Michigan State's are actually identical to each other. Press box wise. So, I mean, they're both nice press boxes or whatever, but I know it's not a college stadium, obviously, but when we went down to New Orleans and when we went down to Atlanta for the playoff, it's obviously indoors. And so the press boxes are open air, and that was cool. Like you could feel the fans and like
the press box in Mercedes-Benz Stadium is excellent with the exception of where it's placed.
Yeah, that's fair.
If it was placed more to the side instead of like dead through the end zone. But yeah, those are like Pitt's. I mean, with all due respect to wherever the Steelers play, it's just a normal NFL stadium. Trying to think of some other places I've been. BC's is just it's okay. I've been there for that one. Duke's is okay.
My father-in-law actually, after the renovation, really likes Stanford. Like it's just small.
Yeah,
and it's like
it's nice. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice.
For what it is.
Their press box is pretty good too.
Okay.
I met Condoleezza Rice at their press box.
No kidding.
When she was was she the provost there?
She was out. Yeah, she was there for.
Yeah, there's been a lot of go to these places. There's a lot of famous politicians at these places. She worked there. Like Ted Cruz was at the one this year with his little posse. So walking by and was like, okay. Which makes sense why he'd be there because he's involved in the committee on, like with the NIL stuff and changes of college football and stuff like that. Yeah, Stanford's is okay. It's okay. It was cool. I don't know if it's a cool stadium, but it was a cool environment where Arizona State plays, where the Fiesta Bowl used to be. That was pretty cool to be there. Texas A&M's got an awesome stadium. Like that's a great place to watch a ball game. There are some bad seats there, which is going to just happen when it's that big. But that was a pretty cool place. North Carolina's got a nice stadium, small. It's everything's Carolina blue, which is actually when there's nobody in it, actually looks kind of cool. It's just but it's like it's traditional stadium on the sides. It's got some stuff on in the end zones, but it's not like completely wrapped around. I've also watched a game at Fenway and Yankee Stadium. It was cool once. I'm good. So Trev, you experienced that this year. It's like I just don't love the end zone views. Like that's the big thing for me.
No, I'm with you. It was tough. Whenever Notre Dame's offense was going away on the opposite end of the field, I would just have to watch it up on whatever video board was up in the stadium because I couldn't tell. I've only been in I've been in Yankee Stadium's press box and then I've been in Notre Dame's press box, obviously. As a fan, the horseshoe was pretty cool. I will not lie about that. Like that was a cool atmosphere to be in. My journey up to the stadium was terrible, but getting to the stadium was not fun. But being in there, not a bad seat in the house, which was I honestly thought was kind of surprising considering how big it was. But that was cool. And then I've been inside a Clemson stadium too as a fan. That was fun. I would have loved to seen that environment in a night game. Because I watched them beat Louisville like 77-7 in like a noon kickoff. So that was.
I was at the 15 game. Even in the rain, it was an electric environment.
I bet, man. That's so cool.
Awesome. Watching them come down at night through running down the hill in the rain because then you're waiting on like, okay, who's going to be the first one to fall?
Mhm.
And nobody did. None of the players did anyway. I'm like, I'd have had to rethink that. Very overrated stadium, Lane Stadium, super overrated. So the Enter the Sandman thing looks awesome on TV.
Yeah, it does.
It is so overrated because it takes them forever to get out there, and it's almost anticlimactic by that point in time. And it's just like, okay, I've been listening to freaking Metallica for way too long. Like, you guys need to hurry up and get out of here. Get out here so we can get this game on. I've been there twice now. Very overrated stadium, in my opinion. And it's one of those things that's cooler on TV because you only see part of it than it is watching it live, in my opinion. I thought it was very overrated. I just thought it was going to be cooler. So it takes way too long. I have been inside where, inside the I'm drawing a complete blank where Florida plays.
Doak Campbell.
No, Florida.
Oh, Florida.
Swamp.
Sorry.
The swamp. Yeah. I've been inside. I had a friend who she was getting her doctorate from Florida. And so I was down there visiting when I was looking to go to seminary. There was a seminary somewhat down near there that I was looking at going to. So I met up with her for dinner, and she took me to, you just walk in back then. Like, you just walk in the stadium. They had like open gates. You can just walk in. I don't know what it's like on a game day, but it was pretty cool looking because it's angled very differently. It's like
super weird. There's like walls in the middle.
Yeah.
And
but it looked
and I can
cool.
see that on TV. But yeah,
it's like there's like jagged, like just why is that there and why is that?
Right.
But they have like things like sayings on the wall,
Yeah.
and it just was like it was almost cool because of the uniqueness of it.
Yeah, right.
The old Doak Campbell, I've heard the new one is going to be a lot better. They've done a lot of renovations. Yeah, they're rebuilding. No, like I shouldn't say that. That's the renovated Doak.
Oh, okay.
They're adding a bunch of stuff to it. Is going to be cool. Kind of like Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame is a really cool historic stadium. It's nothing now like it used to be. It's almost like a brand new stadium. Yeah, and I think it's awesome. Like,
I do like the fact though that you can walk in and see the old stadium.
Right.
Like that part is actually really cool.
Like from the outside and inside, it looks nothing like
absolutely correct.
Nothing like it.
100%.
I think it's awesome, and I think both were awesome, and I've been in both. I was never in it in the first upgrade. My first game was in 07. Okay. So I was never there. And what I mean is when they went from 59,000 to 80, I never saw it before.
Right.
Like when it was 59.
Yep.
But
when did they do that renovation? Was it 98? Does that sound right?
It was in the 90s. It was I think it was sooner than 98, wasn't it? Wasn't it like
maybe it was
a year
95?
or two after Florida State? I think it was somewhat soon after they made Rudy.
They made Rudy in the early 90s.
Yeah, I think it was 92. Is because they had that game the year they played Boston College. And they beat Boston College 54-7 in Notre Dame Stadium, and then played them again at home the next year, and that's when BC beat them. But it was 92 when they filmed that year.
Oh.
So somebody said 96, 97. So right in between. So yeah,
because I had been in it as a kid when it was. I just can't remember when they. I thought that they had done it while I was in high school, which would make sense if it was in that time frame.
Yeah,
so I've been
I was
in all
in
three
high school back then.
Yeah,
so
I've been in all three like iterations of it.
Vince, do you like Purdue Stadium? I think it's okay. I don't like it. Doesn't like
it's
blow me
they
away.
keep adding on to it. It used to be kind of a horseshoe, and then they added stands in the other end, and then they've kind of connected those stands, and they're attempting to make it into a complete oval. You know what I mean? So like it has seen many iterations to it than it ever was before, but it's all like it's kind of like a high school stadium on steroids. I just kind of the way it's put together. Yeah. That's always the vibe that I got when I had gone.
That's
to some
what
games
I
when I was
don't
in
like
high school
about
and stuff. Yeah. It's
like when I go to Wake and then I go to there, I'm like, this is completely different. Like this is small and cool.
Right.
This is small and
Yeah. It's just I don't know. It doesn't look like there was a whole lot of thought that went into when they expanded it and the amount of times that they've expanded it. It's just big. Like
I don't really remember Georgia Tech Stadium. I don't remember anything standing out about it because I was there.
Every time we play them, they're in Atlanta.
Well, they did play in 2020 during the COVID year.
They weren't supposed to, but they ended up doing that. Yeah, that's right.
Were they originally going to play it?
I believe
in one of
so.
the bigger stadiums.
Yep.
Okay.
And then since there were no fans, they moved it to the
Right.
the campus.
Yeah, and it was good. Darrell K. Royal's pretty cool place to watch a ball game. Where Texas plays. I'm just going through the Notre Dame schedule every year.
Oh.
And NC State's got a nice stadium. It's nice. It's not special. The Carrier Dome was pretty cool. Like I would probably
want just to see it.
Yeah.
I would like
it's
to
a
see
cool
it.
environment, just being there again, knowing about all the I don't know there's a lot of great football games played there, but there was a whole lot of great basketball games played there. So that was pretty cool. And it's it's an open one. So like Ryan was there with me. We both went to it and it's like it's open. And so like we had a couple fans walking for us like, hey, good, and so got to talk to some people and meet some people. And
it's wild.
Like I just like those open environments. I don't know that I would like that for every home game, but it's cool that that's true on a couple road games. And it's easier to do that in New York when you're in a dome. Could you imagine if that was like an open stadium and like it didn't have a roof?
Yeah, no. Especially
like, hey, which one of you guys wants to go cover that game? Because I'm pulling rank here and I ain't going.
Especially in Syracuse, New York. Yeah,
that was a cool one. I'm just going through all the different places that I've been to. Like I said, Michigan State's just kind of okay.
Is there anywhere you haven't been to that you want to?
Yeah, there's a lot of those. Like I'm really looking forward to going to watch Notre Dame and Alabama. I'm still mad at myself for getting out of coaching in 2012 and not getting a chance to go to Norman for that game. Like that would have been
sweet.
That would have been awesome. Yeah, that would have been awesome. I don't have a burning. I've heard LSU's like really electric, but I've also heard that it's really bad for people who, if you're not a fan of that. And I just, you hear some of the things they say. And I don't know that I would enjoy that a whole lot. But like Georgia was on my bucket list. Some of the places I wish I could have gone aren't around anymore. Like I wish I could have covered a game at the Orange Bowl. Like I think that'd have been pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, I would love to go cover a game at Husky Stadium in Washington. I think that I've heard that's a great stadium.
I've heard that's awesome.
I'd like to cover a game at Eugene. I think that would be pretty cool. That'd be one that I'd want to go at. I mean, look, I despise Penn State, but I think it'd be awesome to cover a game at Beaver Stadium. Like just to say that I've been there. I don't know if it'd be nice or not, but I think it'd be cool. Tennessee, Neyland Stadium. I think it'd be one. I'd love to cover a game at Neyland Stadium. What's cool is I've actually I was able to knock off a bucket list one last year with Texas A&M. I've always wanted to go cover a game at Kyle Field. I just thought that'd be cool. And it was like what I like those stadiums because like it's a little like I'm not a big fan of heights. Like I'm not afraid of heights. I just don't like them. You know what I mean? Like I get a little like, and I don't like heights if it's like thrust upon me. Like for our senior trip, we went up to New York City and then up to Toronto. Or actually went up to Toronto first and then came down through Niagara and then ended in New York City, which is creepy because 2 years after 9/11, I found an old thing of photos, like a reel of photos that I had taken from our trip and got them developed. And one of the photos was in there was me at the bottom of the towers, just taking a picture of it, looking up at the towers. It's wild. But when we were up in Toronto, we went up the stupid Space Needle. I didn't want to go up because, again, I don't like heights. And this is just dumb. Like, why are we up there? Like, like, I remember they did this. It did this in Babel, and it didn't work out for them. You know what I'm saying? And so I go up there, and I'm like, they're like, look, it's cool. You'll be on the inside. All right, no problem. So I'm walking around, and all of a sudden, I'm talking to somebody. All of a sudden, I feel the ground underneath me change in texture. And I look down, and it's a freaking see-through floor. If there was a 12-foot rim there, I could have dunked on it windmill style. That's how high I jumped off of that freaking thing. And there were dudes like they would stand on the edge of it and they'd fall onto it. I was like, you're an idiot. Like, you're an idiot. Like, that is no way. I was not happy about that. So, like, that's the time I've only been like, but I've gone up to the not Eiffel Tower, Empire State Building and looked over. Like, I don't love it. I saw it. Okay, cool. Now let's leave. But like, and I loved roller coasters, but like, I'd never loved being at the top of it. Like, let's get down. Let's get the rush of going down. But so I'm not afraid of heights, but I don't like them. But yeah. So I mean, that's I'm not quite sure what got us to there, but there was somewhere I was going with it. But we were talking
about
how high up Kyle Field was, maybe.
Oh, no. So it's really high up, but then like when the crowd's getting going, like it's the press box is shaking. And I'm like, yeah, this feels structurally unstable right now. like I know they've built it to be able to handle that type of thing, but it still didn't feel great.
Man,
Yeah. No, thank you. That was not fun. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Somebody said no skydiving package for Brian and Ange for their anniversary. Check. Facts. Facts.
I'm with you, man. I'm weird with heights. Like it's I can go up. I did in Chicago, like the Willis Tower thing where they have like those glass boxes. I can do that and I'm like relatively okay. But there was one year where one of my buddies, I helped like his parents like reshingle their roof. And I was like standing on their roof and I couldn't do it. Like I think it's like the measurable heights when I know how high up I am. That's what freaks me out the most. I know that's crazy, but I'm with you. I'm not, heights is a weird thing for me.
Yeah. I've been to, somebody asked about Jerry World. I was there for 2018. Vince, did you cover a game there? So it's cool to be down in the field. The press box was kind of, it's just so big. Like, it's really cool to be down there because you got that giant scoreboard ahead. But then you start thinking, if this thing falls, I've got nowhere to go. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to squash hundreds of people. But, yeah, so that's a Northwestern Stadium is garbage, and their fans are garbage. So that was
Northwestern's new stadium is going to be sweet.
It should be. Their old stadium sucked.
It's
and
awful.
Their fans suck.
Really?
Yes. Some of them.
What do they have to suck about?
They're just some of the nastiest.
Really?
Just like some of the stuff that my wife relayed to me that they were yelling at her.
Wow.
And the other photographer. You got to suck at life to be yelling at photographers.
Seriously.
Like, just nasty people.
That's crazy.
And I'm glad she told me, because like, you know how it is, Vince. I mean, we experienced today. You talk about me, I don't care, whatever. You come at one of my friends, or you come at one of my people, you come at my wife, like, okay, just on principle alone, you got to catch a few. I'm sorry.
Right.
So if she'd have told me in the stadium, I'd have been like, point them out to me. You know what I mean? Because we're going to go in the parking lot and have a little misunderstanding. You know what I mean? So yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, their stadium I do think the pictures of the new stadium are going to be amazing.
Just gorgeous. If that's what it ends up actually looking like. It was. Now what they're doing now is crazy. They're like basically playing on a beach almost. Like they're right on the coast.
Yeah. Louisville has a cool stadium. It just smells like weed. Because they don't let you smoke cigarettes, but apparently they let you smoke weed all day in that stadium. It literally smells like weed inside that stadium. It's absolutely awful. It wasn't that way in the press box. When you go down close to the field, absolutely does. So yeah, I think that's pretty much the places I've been. Camp Randall's a place I've always wanted to watch a game, cover a game. Wisconsin, that's always been one. So you were asking earlier about places I would like to go cover a game. I wasn't in love with the shoe, but we were in the press box, which was super high up. That might have been why we weren't actually in the stands.
Yeah.
I went there in the 5th grade, and I remember enjoying it, but I don't remember if the stadium was cool or not. Because my 5th grade basketball coach was an Ohio State fan. He got season tickets, and he asked me and my dad if we wanted to go, and I was like, yeah. I was a Notre Dame fan, but like, I've always just been do I want to go watch a college football game on a Saturday for free? Let me think about it. So, but yeah, that was, and somebody said Nebraska's supposed to be awesome. That's another one that I want to attend a game at. And what'd be really cool? I would love to go to, is it Hawkeye Stadium? Is that what
I think
where Iowa plays and experience the thing where they wave at the hospital? I think that'd be pretty awesome to see in person. I think that'd be a really cool moment. So, that's, I think, most of the ones I can think of that would be. I don't know. I've always had this weird thing about wanting to go to Kansas State for a game. I don't know why. Oh, Boise. My wife just texted me the blue field you want to see too. So yes, exactly. Boise State. That would be a cool place to go watch a game because it's going to be small, and you get the blue field and the mountains in the background. Like that's the only cool thing about the Sun Bowl. Like the stadium kind of. Stinks. The press box not very good, but when you're out there and you're like looking and there's like mountains around the stadium. I've never been to Boulder, but I've driven by their stadium. It's just it never really cared to go to a game. Those are mainly the ones, and I would love to go to a game at West Point. That would be awesome. That's why I wish Notre Dame would just play one game in Annapolis and one game at West Point. Just please. those are the ones just off the top of my head that I think of that I'd like to go see a game there. But some of those I'm going to get a mark off over the next decade.
Yeah.
They're going to the Swamp. They're going to Alabama. So, yeah, that's going to be fun.
Those aren't the ones you're going to ask me to cover?
No. You can come with me.
Deal.
Yeah.
Tyler Evans, thanks for the super chat. Appreciate it. Tyler, what was your favorite game to watch as a football fan? Have a tie between 06 Notre Dame versus Michigan State and 08 Texas Tech versus Texas.
So if I had, am I reading this correctly? If I had to pick between the two, which game would I want to watch?
I think he was just saying like the tie of his two is between those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What was your okay? So he's asking our opinion. Those are his top two. Okay, that makes sense.
I think that's what it is.
Favorite game to watch. I mean, I still love watching the 88 Miami game's awesome and everything, but I don't have this. I remembered as a kid, but I don't like have the same type of recollection I did when I watched Florida State 93. That's still my all-time favorite game to watch is 93 Florida State. Like it, and it's kind of like the game I sent you yesterday, Trev. It was just a contrast in styles. You've got, football on grass basically in Florida State, spread the field. I mean, they'd even go 21 personnel and be in shotgun and just, and throwing it all over the field, mobile quarterback before that was really a thing against just power. And, Florida State's trying to figure out the right cleats to wear. And it just, it's power versus speed. And because I was 15 then, where I was 10 in 88, like I honestly remember the USC game in 88 more just of my experience watching it and the West Virginia game more than the Miami game. I remember the Miami and Michigan game, but for some reason, just not quite as much as I remember the USC and West Virginia games, probably because that was my first year kind of as a Notre Dame fan. So like my love for it kind of grew. So the Miami game probably increased my desire to enjoy the USC game that year. But 93, I remember a lot more, especially that Florida State game. So that's probably still my favorite game to watch. But the Sugar Bowl and the Orange Bowl this year are creeping up on that a little bit. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've watched the Orange Bowl so many times, man. I've watched it an insane amount of times.
Yeah.
As a kid, I don't know what it was. I watched the Notre Dame Tennessee 2005 game so many times. I don't know why. Like, it wasn't a close game. Notre Dame ran away with it, but I think it was like a combination between Zibby's punt return and his pick six. Like, I remember a play where I think it was like one of their first offensive touchdowns. Like, Anthony Fasano caught like an underneath route, ran it in for a touchdown, but like on pass pro, Darius Walker like flipped a blitzing linebacker, like just took his legs out and then stood up, threw him over his back. Like, it was. I watched that game a lot when I was a kid, and I don't know why. But
what game is that?
Notre Dame, Tennessee, 05. Couldn't tell you what. Like, it wasn't a close game. It wasn't like the crazy comeback at Notre Dame, Michigan State, but.
First time you saw a Clausen play.
It was. One of their backup quarterbacks was named Jim Bob Cooter.
Oh, he's an OC now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Clausen was their starting quarterback on that team.
Yeah.
I didn't get to watch that game live because I was coaching, so I had to watch it later. So I don't remember that one as much. But yeah, I remember the score.
Mm-hmm.
Put a whooping on Tennessee.
Sure did.
How about you, Vince?
I don't really go back and watch a lot of games, to be honest with you. The most games I've probably ever rewatched, because it's been a few different times already, has been this run from this past season. Like, I've rewatched those games a few different times. I don't know that I've really gone back and watched a whole lot of other games. So
I have a thread on the board, Vince, where I have a bunch of games from 88 and 89 and 93 that you should go back and watch.
I should go back and watch those, because I haven't watched any games from that era. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
First game I have a
thread on the message board. You should watch those. Yeah.
The first game I have a memory of is Florida State, Notre Dame in 93. And then
were you there, or did you watch it on TV?
No, I watched it on TV. Okay. But I remember I walked on campus, Friday night, Friday between school and our football game. I was definitely walking around campus, and we went to the pep rally, and like I remember that kind of stuff. But yeah, so anyway.
Lou Samoji used to joke that he knew 250,000 people that were at the Miami game in 1988. Because there's so many people that claim to be there. Like, yeah, I don't think that maybe were there because
no chance.
Because there was only 59,000 people.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of iconic game where it's like you were so into it that you almost kind of think, was I at that game? I think I was at that game. So, yeah. If I could only watch one Notre Dame game ever for the rest of my life, it'd be 93 Florida State. I'm hoping that answer changes.
Yeah.
Here in about 6 months, 7 months, right? In the next 6 months, 7 months. So that'd be August, September, October, November, December, January. So 6 months. I hope that answer changes a little bit. Man,
Love it.
Good question, Tyler.
Iden Benami, can you see could Nick Reddish be the next BMO Leonard Moore 3-star that is underrated and breaks out? Is there the potential there?
Well, no, not to that degree, because I don't rank him as high as those two players. I didn't view either one of them as 3 stars. The only question for me was, would Leonard Moore be top 100 or not going into senior year? And then he got injured. I had Benjamin Morrison in the top 100. I had both of them with 4.5-star or 5-star upside grades. With Nick Reddish, I don't view him that high right now. Part of that's on just not as much film as available of him, which is why I haven't fully graded him yet. But I didn't view either one of those guys as 3 stars. But do I think he's an underrated player? Like, take away the Benjamin Morrison Leonard Moore comparison. Do I think he's an underrated player that could end up being a lot better than his ranking? Yes, I do. Because you watch him play, he's just a football player. He's just a football player. He's just a smart football player that's athletic and he'll hit and he's around the ball all the time. Could he outplay his ranking? I absolutely think that. Yeah. Do I think he can be as good as Benjamin Morrison and Leonard Moore? No, because if he did, I'd rank him higher. But I think he's going to be a guy that you look at and you're like, boy, of all the kids in that class, I did not think he was going to do this, this, or this. And, man, he was a good football player for you. You know, could he have an Alohi Gilman type of career? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I think taking away the comparison of those two guys who I think are like elite players, I absolutely think he could be an underrated player that breaks out. Yeah, agree. You guys, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Vince and I talked about this, or whoever I did the mailbag with last week, we talked about this. So we share the same sentiment.
Another one from Iden. If you wanted to flip a 4-star or 5-star to Notre Dame during the 25 season, it would be Drake Quinn or a linebacker.
Not a linebacker. Drake Quinn would probably be my pick.
Where's he committed to now?
Clemson.
Okay.
There's a couple receivers I wouldn't have mind flipping, and before Notre Dame like completely Mike Brown hit the inside straight. Now it's like you can't bring a 6th receiver in. I mean, it's just
that's a lot. Yeah.
But I mean, I would have said Ian Premer if he would have committed somewhere else. He would have been on my list, but they got him. Drake Quinn. Yeah, that'd probably be my one. Let's see what happens with Elijah Golden, because it may switch to Elijah Golden depending on where he ends up. But I still like where Notre Dame stands on that one. But yeah, Drake Quinn's the one that I know is not at Notre Dame that I would say, yeah, I'd love to flip him. He's a good player. I think he's got a incredibly high ceiling. Incredibly high ceiling.
A. Reagan, most likely first drive in Miami, 10-play, 75-yard drive, taking 8 minutes off the clock, or a 3-play, 75-yard drive in less than 2 minutes, 1-play, 75-yard track meet that ends with number 4 throwing up the heart.
Most likely first drive? I mean, probably, yeah. I think the second one, maybe. It would be my next option. I don't see a 1-play, 75-yard one, but that just doesn't happen often. But, Vince, I think you and I were in the stadium when that did happen once recently. 2015 against USC, first play of the game for Notre Dame. Will Fuller over the top, smoking Dory Jackson for a touchdown.
I was
did I
yelling
ever tell
some
you
unsavory things at that point. I was, Dory, you blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
were you in the stadium or were you in the press box?
I was not in the press box. I know
Okay,
that for
so
sure. But
I was up on top on the roof
okay.
of the old press box
Okay.
because they remember that's back when they
Oh,
let
yeah.
me film the games. I could use them to go break down the games later. That's how I was able to break down games back then.
Yep.
So Ange was up there and she was having an issue with the camera. So I went up there and I was helping her with it in between the series. And so I was like, well, I'll stay up here and watch the Notre Dame series. And then I'll go back down because by the time we were getting done, and it was like you had to kind of walk back and then go down the stairs and then come around and get to your seat. So I was like, I'll just watch the series.
Yep.
And that was cool because like you're up there and I'm watching. I'm behind. I'm like kind of like right on the level of the line of scrimmage. So I see, I think it's Amir Carlisle coming motion. It was pretty quiet at the stadium at the time. Like there's some cheering, but USC had they had destroyed Notre Dame the year before, like annihilated Notre Dame the year before. And Cody Kessler leads USC like right down the field, just do touchdown. It's like, here we go again. Yeah, it's kind of the meal. And then Deshaun drops back. I think they did like a little half PA on it. And crowd's like, okay, let's go. And then ball leaves the air and you just hear this crescendo in the stadium as it gets closer and closer to Will Fuller. And the minute it hits his hands, that place went freaking nuts.
Yep.
And that was one of the loudest moments that I've ever been until the playoff this year when Jeremiah Love hit the edge against Indiana.
Yep.
That became the new loudest moment that I've ever experienced inside Notre Dame Stadium. USC 2023 was close early in that game. That crowd was nuts early remember that, Vince? We were outside for that one too. But the Indiana touchdown run, and maybe it was loud because I know a couple other people that were going a little nuts outside of that game. But yeah, that was one of the loudest moments ever. Was that moment? Yeah.
I don't know why, because it was the first play of the series. I don't know why, but I was watching Will Fuller the entire time. Like I didn't even watch the ball get snapped. I was watching Will Fuller. I watched him make barely a move, by the way, on Adoree Jackson and just leave him in the dust. And I was like, okay. Because the whole week leading up to that, it was like, Adoree Jackson's going to shut down Will Fuller and Adoree Jackson is this and Adoree Jackson
and in
is that.
Fairness, it's because he was really good.
Before.
And then, the next year when he did it. Like, I mean, he got his revenge the next year, but that wasn't against Will Fuller.
No, it wasn't.
And he was trying to catch Will.
Nope. He got burned.
Will Fuller ate up that 7-yard cushion in half a second. That was
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely nuts.
It was great play call. I mean, it wasn't super creative, but like they knew when you went in motion, you were going to get that safety to rob down, which meant if you ran double post, you were going to get an outside one-on-one. Mike Debrock knew exactly what he was going to get on that look. He dropped back, threw it. Will Fuller smoked Adoree Jackson, and it just was like, okay, this is what's going to be in store for you today. And if the defense was worth a darn, that game would have been a lot like the 2017 game. Yeah. If Notre Dame's defense wasn't hot garbage because of who was running it. It wasn't the player's fault. It's who was running it.
No.
So, yeah, that was another one that was pretty cool to be at. Notre Dame's played some really entertaining games inside Notre Dame Stadium against USC that I've been at. The only games I've seen them play 2 games at the Coliseum, and I was at both. I saw them win one, lose one. I was at the game in 2014, which was like, not great. And then I was at the game in 2018, which was pretty awesome.
That's sweet.
Yeah. It's the only 2 games I've been to USC to watch in person.
I wish I could have been at the 2015 game in person. That would have been sweet. The loudest I heard it, Lauren and I were at the 23 USC game. Jadarian Price's kick return was pretty loud. That was really loud. The Ben Morrison pick 6 in 22 against Clemson, I was there with my dad. That was rocking. And then the 98-yard touchdown run against IU was also. I mean, that was.
Lou Emoji has said that, and now keep in mind, Lou passed away in 2021. So, like, you think of all the games Lou saw from when he was a student at Notre Dame. He said the loudest the stadium was ever, by far, was Miami 1988, and he said nothing else was close, which is wild to think about because there's only 59,000 people there.
Right.
Wow.
And it doesn't have right now, the way the stadium is built, the sound stays in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Before it went out.
He said that was the loudest that the stadium had ever been at. And he was at every home game, as far as I know, from the time he was a student to the time he passed away. So he would have loved covering last year's team.
Mm.
Like, he would have really enjoyed last year's team so much.
What was the year that Notre Dame played Michigan and they had to take an official timeout because the crowd was too loud?
88.
Was it?
Because back then you'd get penalized if the crowd wouldn't quiet down. They called a penalty on him in that game. Yeah, I think it was what they call it, Vince, like delay a game or something like that. But yeah, they called a penalty on him in that game.
Wow.
Yeah, the NFL did that too. It's so lame. It's just just can't even think of who even thought of that being a good idea.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Tyler Evans with another super chat. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate you very much. Which former Notre Dame wide receiver will have a better year in your opinion? Tobias at Utah, Thomas at Virginia, or Dion at Miami of Ohio?
If I was a betting man, I'd go with Jaden Thomas at Virginia because he's the one that I'm most confident is going to stay healthy. If they're all healthy, they'll all have good seasons. If they're all healthy, I'd probably go with Tobias at Utah because I think he's the most talented of the three. But I could see Dion having a really good year at Miami.
Yeah,
if he wants, Dion's thing is if he wants to have a good year, he will. Dion's a good kid. Just how bad does he want it? You know, and I expect Jaden to do at Virginia what he does at Notre Dame. The problem that Jaden's going to have is the quarterback position is a little bit shaky. You know, they got Chandler Morris is who they got out of the portal. We'll see how he adjusts. You know, new guy, new system. Can't be worse than what they had last year. It can't be worse than that. But I hope they all three they're all good kids. They are. And Jaden Thomas, great kid. I mean, Jaden Thomas and Deion Colsey had every reason in the world to be grumpy and bad teammates last year. You know, former starters, former guys with high expectations, seniors getting passed up by younger guys. And Jaden Thomas kept a great attitude all year. And every time Notre Dame said, hey, Jaden, we know that we haven't thrown you a ball in 4 games, but we're going to go to you on 4th and 5 right now. He's like, all right, cool. I got you. I'll make the catch. I'll make the play. It's just he was so great this year in that regard. And I mean, it's I joke about it, but Jaden Thomas this year caught 18 passes for 167 yards. And I feel like I could name every catch he made. You know, it's I could oh yeah, I remember because on this one he did this, on this one he did that. And he would have scored on this one if it would have been a better ball. And, you know, I mean, this kid's money. I mean, what kind of there's a thing where you can acknowledge look, this guy just isn't as good as our other guys. He's just not dynamic athletically enough. But I know this guy's a playmaker. For Mike Denbrock in a tie ball game. Tie ball. No, they were losing, weren't they? When on the
Penn State.
Yeah, wasn't it 24-17 early in the 4th quarter? They were down 24-17, right?
Yep.
3rd and 2, you're driving, you're not in field goal range yet, and you think coming out of a timeout, yeah, let's give the ball to Jaden Thomas. But why did he call? He goes number 1
on an end around, basically.
But it's they're not going to expect it.
No,
and I trust Jaden to go make the play.
Yeah. Yeah.
The level of trust. Yes, there's some trickeration to it, but there's also a level of trust that Jaden's going to do the job, just like he did on the 4th and 5 against Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's of all the people you could have got the ball to that day, you just said let's throw it to Jaden Thomas why? Because he's not going to go beat a team for an 80-yard touchdown. But you know what? I know if we need 5, he's going to give me 5. If we need 2, he's going to get me 2 because he's a reliable, dependable player who's smart. But you got to have your head in the right place for that as a veteran. And I have so much respect for those 2 kids. I really do.
Me too. I just for this one, I don't know what it is, but I have a soft spot for Miami of Ohio. Just because of Chuck Martin, and I don't know. I just love Miami of Ohio.
I know why. I know why. We'll talk about it after the show.
Shush yourself. But they do things right, man. They do things right, and I find it hard not to root for Chuck Martin. And so and I like Deion
He's a good dude
as a person, and his parents were super sweet. When I saw them when we were down in New Orleans, actually, we were eating breakfast right next to them, and they were super.
Jaden's parents are pretty cool too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just people. it's hard not to root for these kids when you get to know them and you get to know their families a little bit and things like that. And I would just love to see Dion just kind of put it all together in Miami. I think they got a brand new offense down there, that's for sure. They've got a lot of transfers in. Can Chuck get them going in the right direction? I hope so. I would love to see Dion be successful. So for my den, 1 out of 2. Are you surprised Mike Gundy held off paying players NIL until this past December, even though it's been going on for 2 to 3 years? He spoke about it openly the other day about OSU. And the second part is not sure on the specifics, but he admitted he was behind and had to make a change.
Well, if I read him correctly, he basically said he didn't think it was going to last. He thought they were going to overturn it pretty quickly. So he didn't want to spend all the time building up this infrastructure when it's going to get basically changed in 2 years, because that's what the NCAA was telling people. I think that's really what it came down to. He's going to overhaul my roster with all these type of players, and then in a year it's going to not be that way anymore. I get it. I think he made a bet, and he was wrong, and he admitted he was wrong and said, okay, now let's go buy players like everybody else is doing, because this is going away. So I actually have no problem with it. I thought it would have been more like, I've been doing this every time, and I went to Oklahoma State, and I'm not paying. I didn't get paid. I'm not paying. It's like, look, why am I going to waste all this time doing it this way? Overhaul my roster, bring in these kind of mercenary players when, it's going to not be a thing in a year or two. So I think I would have said that if I was advising him, like, Coach, this ain't going away. In some form or fashion, this is going to be here. So you might as well get the ball rolling now. But he didn't go that way. So props on him for being honest about it, because he could have admitted it. Yeah, he could have given some reason like that. Oh, this is why, and we had to do this. But he was like, "Look, dude, I thought we weren't going to. I made a guesstimation. I was wrong. So now I'm like, all right, let's go buy some players." And they had a pretty good portal class. So
amazing how that works.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Reagan. What's more hilarious? Coaches crying about Notre Dame not being in their conference, or SEC coaches crying about the playoffs still being too small just so they can get bounced in the first round? Woo, baby.
The one about Notre Dame not being in the conference, that's by far, though. Because let's be honest, the SEC teams all got, except for the new Big 12, the team they got from the conference portal, that's not going to be a normal. There's going to be an SEC team that wins the title in the next 3-4 years, probably. I mean, if not, there's a couple of SEC teams that have a shot to win it this year. But I actually kind of like what the SEC's doing right now. I actually, and I'm not a big Greg Sankey fan, but if what I've seen reported is kind of what he's doing, I kind of like what he's doing, which is basically, look, we are either going to go to 9 games and get what we want, which I think he ultimately wants a 9th conference game, or, like, things aren't going to change dramatically, where they're not going to go to the automatic qualifiers because this league doesn't want it. The Big Ten does, because I think the Big Ten knows what they did last year is not going to be the norm for them every single year. That's what they think. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think adding USC and Oregon and Washington means that you now have better chances to have 4 teams every year. But, Tony Petitti just wants that guarantee. It's all about dollars for the Big Ten. That's all it's about for the Big Ten. So I'm working on some research now to kind of go look at it. And like the SEC, there's some teams in the SEC doing it right, where I'm like, look, if you could all do this, I don't care about you playing. I don't need you to play 15 games, 9 games in the regular season. Because look, there's two things can be true at once. Here's 2 things that I think are true. Number one, this notion that that playing in the SEC is just so much harder and but it's not what you make it out to be. But it's still tougher playing 8 games in the SEC right now than it is playing 9 in the Big Ten. Because once you get past the first 4 or 5 teams in the Big Ten, there's a big freaking drop off.
Huge,
chasm. And now that's changing a little bit with Washington, but you've got too many teams in your league now. You're not playing all those teams in one year. And I look at it like, so outside of like Ohio State and Michigan, and that ends for Michigan the next 3 years. They have Oklahoma on their schedule for 2 years, and then Texas. And then after that, they don't have any big games scheduled. But most of them don't have really tough non-conference games. But if you look at the SEC and you're like, okay, like South Carolina plays Clemson every year. They also, over the next from 25 to 30, they play Virginia Tech, Miami, North Carolina, NC State on top of playing Clemson. So even though they only play 8 league games, I promise you that South Carolina is going to have a tougher schedule the next 6 years than anyone in the Big Ten outside of maybe Michigan and Ohio State most years. And I look at Arkansas, for example. They play Notre Dame, Utah, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, Utah, and Texas Tech. Plus, in 25 and 28, they're playing Memphis. You look at a couple other teams in the SEC. Alabama this year plays Florida State and Wisconsin. In 26, they play West Virginia and Florida State. In 27, they play West Virginia and Ohio State. In 28, they play Ohio State and Oklahoma State. In 29, they play Notre Dame and Oklahoma State. And in 2030, they play Georgia Tech and Notre Dame. I guarantee that Alabama will have a tougher schedule than everyone in the Big Ten outside of maybe Ohio State, who, by the way, over the next from 25 to 30 plays Texas, Alabama, nobody scheduled for 29, and Georgia. So, Ohio State's bring it on. We're the Buckeyes. And they're smart because, we can play a game like that, and if we lose, that's going to end up helping us because we've got this great non-conference game. If we win, we can lose 2 games and we're going to be in the playoffs. But a lot of the Big Ten teams, like Penn State, here's Penn State's Power 5 non-conference opponents the next from 25 to 30. In 25, in 26, in 27 and 28, they have Syracuse, and then 29, and in 30. Now, in case you guys are thinking I might be stroking out and forgot to name the teams, there are no teams. They don't play a Power 4 team outside of their conference. So from 25 to 30, except for Syracuse. While Alabama in their, you're only playing 8 games. Yeah, against LSU, Tennessee, Georgia. But Alabama's non-conference, I just mentioned, is what it was. Here's who Georgia plays out of conference the next decade, or 25 to 30. This year, there's only one at Georgia Tech. But I believe that's still one of those games that somebody canceled on them. I think that could have just been the Oklahoma game last year. But in 26, they play at Louisville and home against Georgia Tech. In 27, they play at Florida State, home against Louisville, at Georgia Tech. 11 of Georgia's 12 games in 2027 will be against Power 4 teams. In 28, Florida State and Georgia Tech at home. In 29, at Clemson, at Georgia Tech. And in 2030, they play Clemson at home, Ohio State at home, and Georgia Tech at home. So you can stop crying to me about the SEC only playing 8 games when that's what the big dogs in that league are doing every year. Florida plays at Florida State every year. Now, would I like for Florida State to schedule some tougher games? Sure. But you know what Florida's doing in 2028? They're not only playing the Seminoles, but they're playing Colorado and at Arizona State. In 29, they're playing at Colorado. In 2030, they're playing at UCF. And I believe in 31 and 32, they're playing Notre Dame. So they're scheduling those games out of conference. A lot of the teams are. Texas plays in the next – Texas, anybody in 2030 right now, but Texas, the next 5 years, only plays one additional Power 4 team, but it's Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, and Notre Dame. So, again, I promise you Texas is probably going to have a tougher schedule than every team in the Big Ten outside of Ohio State and Michigan during that stretch. So you can kind of miss me with some of that, cry me a river, how tough it is, playing out of league. Here's who Illinois is playing out of conference. Duke, nobody. Missouri, nobody. Here's who's Nebraska's playing out of conference. Cincinnati, nobody. Arizona, and then 29 and 30 play Oklahoma, which I'm excited about that rivalry coming back. I hope that it would be permanent. I'll give props to Wisconsin. They're playing Bama this year. Next year, they play Notre Dame and Pitt, then Pitt again in 27, then Utah, then Cal and Cal. Respect. You play 9 conference games. You're playing decent Power 4 teams. Indiana doesn't play a Power 4 team until 2030 when they play Notre Dame, and I promise you they're going to do everything possible to get out of that game as long as Kurt Cignetti's still the head coach. So, that's why I say, you can miss me with all that. You better play a 9th game. No, you don't. The SEC is going to give us a lot more good football from 25 to 30 with all those non-conference games and only 8 conference games than what the Big Ten is going to give us outside of, again, Ohio State and Michigan, who are playing good teams. So I'd rather take any 9-game Big Ten schedule other than Ohio State and Michigan's the next decade than what Bama and Georgia are putting on their schedules. So, and South Carolina as well. So you can miss me with all that crying from the Big Ten. I'm actually okay with what the SEC is saying. Like I'm good with that. I mean, look, I would want an expanded playoff. I would rather a team fight for an expanded playoff than to fight for automatic bids.
Yeah, and they're not fighting for automatic bids
Not
anymore.
Because you know why? Because the coaches don't want it.
Right.
The coaches don't want it. They're like, look, we're going to get in. We're going to get 4 every year.
Look at the past 20 years. Like the SEC is going to get 4 teams in most likely. Maybe there's an off year where they get 3.
And you're better not. You're better off not, because if you would have had some of the 3 lost teams this year get into they got smoked just like Tennessee did.
Exactly.
You don't want that.
Exactly.
You don't want that.
Yep.
Wait till next year when you get 5 and then you go smoke everybody. There will be years. Just prepare yourselves. There will be a year in the next decade where you're going to have like 3 SEC teams in the semifinals.
Right.
It's just going to happen at some point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason the Big Ten, to your point, is so fired up and they want all these automatic bids because they know they're top heavy.
They know there's going to be years.
You know what I mean? They know they're top heavy and they know that there's a big gap between those teams and the rest of the league. And they're not guaranteed to get the teams in that they think that they should get in. And so they're trying to get the automatic bids. I think the SEC carries the day personally, but we'll see what happens.
I agree. But I think Sankey does want to go to 9 games, though. I think he wants to go to 9 because it's better financially. I hope that he doesn't, because I want to see. I'd rather see what Bama and Georgia and South Carolina are doing than what will happen if they go to a 9th game. Because you'll start Georgia's going to say, okay, well, we're just going to get rid of Florida State. We're going to get rid of Clemson. We're going to get rid of these teams. Bama's going to say, hey, Notre Dame and Ohio State, we're going to rethink some things. Like, why should they then have to play another league? I mean, look, I can say the SEC was overrated last year. 100% overrated last year. It was not nearly as good as the Big Ten was because they didn't have great depth and they weren't good at the top. Like, they just weren't. But that was last year. And there's over the last decade, there's been a couple years I thought the SEC was overrated. It was real top heavy. But in most years, if you're playing the 8th, 9th team in the SEC, you're still playing a top 25 football team. That's not true in the Big Ten. I'm sorry, it just isn't. And so, and playing Arkansas is different than playing Minnesota. It just is. So yeah, I'm siding with the SEC on this one. I think the automatic qualifier thing, I'm not backing down from automatic qualifiers. Just tells me everything I need to know about you, Tony Petitti. Everything I need to know about you and your pitiful league, which is why I'll be so disgusted if Notre Dame ever joined the Big Ten.
Oh, Brian,
disgusted.
So that is not a day that I want to do a show. Like, I will be so.
That will not be
depressed.
A pleasant show.
It won't be. Because I'll be so mad.
It'll be a 5-hour rant.
I'll be so mad about the whole situation. Worse than any loss that Notre Dame has ever taken on the field. Like, because that is now their trajectory for the foreseeable future. And that is awful.
Yeah. Yep. Here's a good one.
Irish Fan 15, what are your early predictions for the big week 1 games, namely Texas OSU and LSU Clemson? Well, I mean, do we want to give away our predictions?
I mean, I can tell you what my prediction is now. That might change during fall camp. I mean, as of right now, I would predict, and I've been a little back and forth in the Texas Ohio State game. But I think after we did the O-line show yesterday, I'm just like, I think I'm going to stick with the home team for Ohio State on that one. And I'm going to take the home team between Clemson and LSU. If the games were being played in the opposite stadiums, I'd take the other home teams. I just think when 2 teams are evenly matched, and I think these games are relatively evenly matched.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm taking the home team. But I think I'm more confident in the Clemson game, assuming Clemson comes out physically prepared to play. Because I just look at LSU with a remade offensive line going up against that defensive line and with a real defensive coordinator finally coaching them. I think that could be the thing that neutralizes what I think LSU has the skill advantage in that game outside of Avian Terrell. But that could get somewhat neutralized by the fact that I think LSU's offensive line may struggle big time with that Clemson defensive line. If I'm LSU, I would much rather play that game in week 7. Where our offensive line has 6 or 7 games to kind of, get their feet underneath them and learn to play as a unit and that kind of stuff, or you might be better prepared to handle than you are now, where you're getting that same D-line from last year plus Will Helt from Purdue, and you've got to face them in week 1 when we're basically just putting a first-time offensive line together. Now, it worked out pretty well for Notre Dame and Texas A&M last year, but a little bit of a different scenario, but that's why another reason I like Clemson at home. So, yeah.
I don't have like a final score prediction or anything yet. I think the Texas-Ohio State game could be surprisingly high scoring. Or I guess I should say like higher scoring than what people may think. Because I think a lot of people are looking at what happened in the game last year, two really good defenses going at it. And I think the narrative has changed a little bit. I don't think the final score is going to be like 45-42. But I also don't think it's going to end 28-14 and have it be 21-14 with like 2 minutes left in the game. So I think it'll be a little bit more high scoring. And then I agree with everything Brian said about the trench warfare going on with LSU and Clemson, what happens there. So
from Patrick James, what are some years where you think the best team didn't win the championship, whether they got snubbed or choked?
And you could pick almost any BCS year, and there's a decent chance that the best team in the country that year didn't get to win the championship. I mean, it's not true every year. I'm being a bit hyperbolic there, but like, what was it, 03? And it was like LSU against Oklahoma. I think I've talked about this recently before, but
was that when Oklahoma got blown out in their conference championship game?
Yes. And that happened to Oklahoma twice. But in 03, it happened in Nebraska once too. But in 03, Oklahoma lost to Kansas State in the Big 12 title game. They were ranked number 1. They lost 35-7. I think that was a Michael Bishop-led team. I'd have to go back and look at that. But I thought Michael Bishop was their quarterback on that team. He might have been a little bit sooner than that. And that was a 3-loss Kansas State team. No, it was Eli Robertson. So Michael Bishop was in, I think probably a little before that, but they got beat 35-7 and still played in the national championship against LSU. And that was Saban's title team. But in that 03 LSU team lost at home to Florida 19-7. And that Florida team finished 8-5. If you go back to USC in 2003, USC lost early in the season that year to Cal. At Cal. Cal finished 8-6, so very similar to Florida. They lost that game on September 27th. And then after that game, they had already beaten number 6 Auburn at home, or meaning at home, like Auburn's home, and beat them that year, 23-0. They killed Notre Dame that year. They went on the road and beat Washington. They beat number 6 Washington State 43-16. That was later in the year. That team at Washington State finished ranked 9th. They just dominated the rest. They beat Arizona 45-0, UCLA 47-22, and beat Oregon State 52-28, and got left out of the BCS title game because they put in Oklahoma. So it was a joke. I mean, an absolute joke. And they had one common opponent, and they both blew that team out. And, Oklahoma beat a bunch of kind of mediocre teams that year, and then they get blown out by K-State. And, K-State, like I said, had 3 losses in the regular season. They lost to Marshall at home, home that year. And that was a joke. But you could find several like that. There was a year that I thought Florida State got a little bit screwed out of being in it. But, yeah, that one with 2000 Miami. Was it 2000? Yeah, I think 2000 Miami. The last year under Butch Jones. I thought that team probably should have been there. Let me find that 2000 Miami team. But I thought they were a team that should have been in it. They were 11-1 that year. Their only loss was week 2 at Washington, and they lost by 5. Washington finished the year, guys, 11-1. And their only loss was at Oregon. And in that season, so I think it was a 2000 national title game, college football. I think it was Florida State and Oklahoma that year, as I think who played in it that year. But yeah, it was the year that Oklahoma beat Florida State. Oklahoma was undefeated. They belonged in that game. Florida State got beat by Miami. Like, they literally lost the head-to-head. And the only other ranked team they beat They beat NC State and Clemson that year, and then beat Florida. It was like you got the head-to-head. Miami was more dominant that season. You could argue Washington had a better resume that season because they went 12-1 and beat Miami. That was another year. I mean, that happened all the time back in the BCS era. I think the year that Florida State, or the year that Florida won their national championship, I think is a year, I think they lost in the regular season to Florida. Yeah, they lost at Florida State and then got a rematch against Florida State that year. So there were so many years the BCS was just garbage. 2001, who was it in 2001? I've brought this up before. Let me see. There was like the year that Nebraska got in, and they got blown out in their championship game by Colorado. Let me see here. I'm pretty sure that was the year. Yeah, 2001, Nebraska got beat in the Big 12 title game 62-36 and still made it to the national championship game that year to play Miami and got slaughtered by Miami. And you just look at it and you're just like, I mean, how did they get in? I mean, Colorado with 2 losses had a better argument to get in that year than them, because the week after, no, it wasn't even the title game. It was the last game of the regular season, because the next week, Colorado went out and beat number 3 Texas in the Big 12 championship game 39-37. So that was a year where it's like Nebraska had no business playing for the national championship that year. You could argue that Oregon had a better argument to make that year. Oregon that year under Mike Bellotti went 11-1, beat USC, beat a ranked Wisconsin team, lost at home to Stanford, beat a ranked Washington State team who's number 10, beat a number 17 UCLA on the road, beat Oregon State in the Pac-12 title game 11-1, and they didn't play for it, and then beat Colorado in the bowl game. Like, there were 3 or 4 teams that had a better argument to make that year than a Nebraska team that got annihilated in the last game of the regular season. It didn't even play for the Big 12 title. So people say, I want to go back to the BCS era. You didn't grow up in a BCS era. If you want to make that argument, like, you forgot what happened in the BCS era. That's nonsense. So yeah, I would never want to go back there. Never want to go back there to that era. So like, those are all teams that that had no business playing for it. So that meant somebody else got screwed over. And I'll tell you another team in the BCS era, the most recent BCS era screw job was Oklahoma State in 2011, not getting a shot at LSU. Alabama had no business getting a rematch against LSU. They lost to LSU at home. Oklahoma State that year was phenomenal. The only game they lost, do you guys remember this? It was a Thursday night game, and it was right after there was a plane crash that killed like a bunch of members of their athletics organization.
Yeah.
And like that year, they had beaten ranked number 8 Texas A&M on the road. They beat number 22 Texas on the road. They blew out Missouri on the road. They beat number 17 Kansas State. They blew out Texas Tech the week before. And then the week after the double overtime loss to Iowa State, not the week after, like a couple weeks after, they played number 10 Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game, beat them 44-10. And then beat that really good Andrew Luck team in the Orange Bowl. Like, that Oklahoma State team got screwed out of playing for the national championship. So yeah, that happened a lot. A lot of people point to Penn State getting screwed in 1994. I don't agree with that. I don't think Penn State got screwed in 1994. Look, I get that Penn State was undefeated. I do. And I'm going to pull up Penn State's season right now. But I was not impressed with that team's resume. They beat number 14 USC at home early in the year convincingly, and that ended up being a good USC team. Then they beat Iowa, Rutgers, Temple, unranked. They went on the road, beat Michigan that year. That was a good Michigan team, but they went 8-4. Beat Ohio State at home. Ohio State finished that year 9-4. And then played Indiana, who stunk, Illinois, who wasn't very good, played Northwestern, Michigan State. So that was like a good Penn State team. Nebraska was undefeated that year. And then when you look at Miami that year, they lost to Washington at the beginning of the year convincingly, but then they just went on an absolute tear. Beat number 3 Florida State by 2 touchdowns that year. That was a 10-1-1 Florida State team that was really good. They lost to Miami and tied number 4 Florida. That Florida team that year was really good. You look at Miami that year also beat number 13 Virginia Tech 24-3. That was a really good Virginia Tech team. They beat Syracuse that year, who was ranked at the time. They beat number 25 Boston College 23-7. I just thought Miami was the better team. I know Penn State had the better record. I just didn't think that Penn State was a very good football team. I just felt the 2 best teams that year were those 2 teams. If they would have picked Penn State, I wouldn't have been upset about it. I wouldn't have been like, oh, Miami got screwed. But I also don't think Penn State necessarily got screwed either. That was a bit of a down year in the Big Ten that year. Yes, they were loaded with talent, but I didn't think they were like a great team. They had a bunch of I think Kerry Collins, I think LeVar Arrington was on that team. I think Courtney Brown was on that team. It was a loaded team. I thought the 2 best teams that year were Nebraska and Miami. But I don't know that Penn State could have beat either one of those teams, to be honest with you, especially the way those teams were playing late in the year. 04 Auburn, I'm not as familiar with that year, but I think 04 Auburn was just kind of had a bad luck, honestly, because the difference in that year is there were 3 undefeated teams. Auburn was undefeated, Oklahoma was undefeated, and USC was undefeated. And that year, Oklahoma beat Oregon out of conference. They beat number 5 Texas 12-0. They beat number 20 Oklahoma State on the road. They beat number 22 Texas A&M on the road. They blew out Colorado in the Big 12 title game. And then obviously USC that year was phenomenal that season. I mean, they were outstanding. And then 2004 Auburn, that was the Jason Campbell team, I believe. They were really good. They weren't as good as those other teams. Had a really good 10-9 win over number 5 LSU, beat number 10 Tennessee on the road, beat number 8 Georgia, number 15 Tennessee in the SEC title game. So they were pretty good. It was bad luck. It's one of those years where, and a lot of other years around that, they're in the title game. It's just one of those unfortunate years where people say, oh, Auburn got hosed. How? They were undefeated. Oklahoma was undefeated, and USC was undefeated. Somebody undefeated was getting left out. They got hosed by a system that only had 2 teams playing like that in what they would define as the title game. So the winner of that game was going to win a championship. If Auburn would have had a chance to maybe, go play somebody where they go into a bowl game and play somebody good and dominate, then sure, okay. But that was also I don't think that was a good Auburn team. But the SEC wasn't. The SEC then isn't the SEC of now. That's the other thing too. But the Big 12 was a tougher league back then than what the SEC was, in my opinion. So, no, I don't think they got screwed. There was 3 undefeated teams. Auburn was undefeated, Oklahoma was undefeated, and USC was undefeated. So, who would have not been screwed?
Yeah.
Who got screwed? College football fans.
Man.
Because the NFL or the college football is the only league without a playoff system.
Yeah, the playoff system is a little bit harder when it comes to the snubbed or choked conversation, because playoffs, a lot of stuff just sorts itself out.
Right.
I'll say this. I'm not going to file it under snubbed or choked. I would have liked to have seen what Georgia in 2023 could have done in the playoffs. I think that would have been interesting. I'm not saying they would have beaten Michigan over that Bama team. That was a fantastic football game, but I would have been interested to see what they could.
Who would you have left out?
Alabama. I know Alabama won the head-to-head in the SEC championship game, but I don't know. I think Georgia kind of just has an Alabama problem. I don't know if they have a big game problem, I guess you could say. I mean, you go back and compare the schedules. They had a lot of liked opponents on there. Georgia was more dominant in those matchups than what Alabama was. I think up front in 23, Georgia was a little bit more. I think they matched up well better than what Alabama did against Michigan's offense. And so that's only why I say that it would be interesting. But I don't want to say choked or snubbed, because it was definitely not snubbed.
Yeah, because they had a chance. You could have got in if you beat Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
And they got thoroughly outplayed by Alabama, I thought, that game. It wasn't like a blowout, but Alabama was clearly the better team that day. I was okay with Alabama being in, and I thought the team that got screwed was Florida State. I would have been better off not having any SEC teams in than kind of what they did. And I think TCU earned a spot there. I think you could have made a case to maybe drop TCU out because they lost their title game in a not a great league. But I mean, they did what they needed to do that year. That was just one of those years where it's like, okay, I'm not a big fan of expanding the playoffs, but this is the reason. These are the years where it's like, was the 18 Ohio State team that finished 11-1 and it was 12-1, but just had that awful day in West Lafayette.
Yeah.
12-team playoff. Be curious what that Ohio State team would have done.
Oh, yeah.
So, those
that team, the 2016 USC team that you talk about,
lost three.
What they could have done in a 12-team playoff.
Nobody wanted to play USC in the postseason that year.
Man.
And the only team that was athletic enough to run with them was Penn State, who they played in the Rose Bowl, and they beat in one of the most entertaining bowl games ever.
Yeah.
The elite athletes on the field that day, it was just ridiculous for both teams.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you know who got screwed in all those years? College football fans. That's who got screwed in all those years with the stupid computers. Like, you guys remember all the computers we piss and moan about from PFF and the S&P Plus guy or SP Plus guy. Those are the systems they're going to be using if the computers start deciding who's going to play in the playoffs. Just keep that in mind when we complain about what humans do. I think for the most part, the committee's got it right. Trevor, you can say all you want about Georgia being in, and the reality is like, I'm going to say, well, Alabama won, but isn't it supposed to be out the entire season? It's the resume of the entire season? So, okay, you make your case, and then I would counter with, yeah, well, neither of them should have been in because Florida State should have been in. Sure. We could do this till we're blue in the face. The reality is I would rather humans kind of look at this objectively and make a decision, and then you kind of live with it, than to say we're going to let some computer system that doesn't punish a team that lost 62-36 in their final regular season game and didn't even play for their own league championship. Think about that. A Nebraska team that did not even qualify for their own 1-2 matchup played in the national 1-2 matchup game. Think about that for a second, because of computers. And computers are not unbiased. You guys realize that every bit of data that goes into a computer was put into there by a human. The criteria that goes into a computer model is created by a human. You understand that, right? The BCS system is not like they just computer and, hello, I am David. I will now decide who. No, you're putting in the criteria of what you think is important, and then it reads it. So it is absolutely biased. It's biased towards whatever criteria gets put in there. So it's not like God came down, Moses came down with 2 tablets and a computer for the BCS system. So they're not less biased than the committee. I literally just pointed out to you the absurdity of the computers, and there's still someone in the chat saying, no, that system sounds better. No, it doesn't. Do you think if there was a human group of people that were deciding who's going to play in the BCS title game, that they would have taken a Nebraska team that got beat by 30 and didn't even qualify for their league championship game and put them in a 1-2 matchup? No. Why? Because they're not dumb. Because you need that human ability of objectivity to say, and subjectivity to say, yeah, I know the points are here, but I just watched that team get annihilated by Colorado, and I'm going to put them up against Miami? Are you serious? No. That's where I'm coming from. No, they're not unbiased. They're biased towards whatever bias the criteria that was entered in has. You guys realize there's no way to remove bias, right? None. It's just, what bias are you most comfortable with?
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. So, yeah, I'm just...
I get it. It's the same computer system that said Duke had a better chance of winning a national championship this year than Notre Dame.
Oh, no, Trevor, it's not a better chance. It's a 2 times better chance. A system that says that SMU has a over 3 times better chance, and Iowa has a 2 times better chance, and Washington has a better chance. That's what you want. Okay.
Gomer Grizz.
I love you, Chief Brody. I'm just busting your chops, man. I love you, but yeah, that's a rough take, my man. Still love you. It's all good.
Gomer Grizz, we know there were throws that Riley Leonard couldn't make that Carr and Minchie can make. But are there any Riley Leonard threw well that Carr and Minchie don't excel in?
There's a couple 3rd downs against Penn State where he's running around and he's throwing like that I don't know that those guys can make. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is there's give and take. there's throws they can make he can't. There's things he did with his legs that they couldn't. And some of those included throws because he's running around and getting free. And like I don't know. Remember the one in the last drive, the field goal drive, where he's like running left and it looks like they're going to get him, and he just kind of like jumps up and throws the ball to Jaden Greathouse
dumped it off.
Yeah.
Like just dumped it.
I don't know that those, maybe they can make that throw, maybe, but
That's
I
not
know
even like a
Riley
quarterback
can make that
throw. Like
No.
that was just
That's what you do when you're playing out in the
parking lot.
streets with your
Yeah.
buddies. Exactly. You're like,
Exactly
what
right.
are you doing? Oh,
Right.
great throw. Great play.
Right.
You know, it's like the Lou
100%.
Brown. Great throw, Riley. Don't ever
Don't
effing
ever
do it again. You know, it's like, it's, you know, from Major League. But that's what Riley did. It's like, look, Riley is never going to win like, if I'm going to a 7-on-7 tournament and then my choice is Riley Leonard or either Steve Angeli or CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie, it's a no-brainer that I'm taking any of those three guys in a 7-on-7 tournament. It's like, who am I taking in my 7-on-7 team? Tim Tebow or Tommy Reese? I'm taking Tommy Reese. Who am I taking in an 11-on-11 with pads on? I don't know that there's many quarterbacks I'm taking over Tim Tebow. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks I would have taken over in a 7-on-7 team more than 2010 Cam Newton. Now, NFL Cam Newton may be a different story, but 2010 Cam Newton, I'm not taking in the 7-on-7 league. You put pads on him and we're having a different conversation. I may want Riley. I mean, like, if Riley had an extra year.
That's why 7-on-7 isn't real football, Brian.
Right.
Because
but like,
yeah.
I'd be a lot more comfortable laying out to catch a pass in front of Sean Taylor with no pads on
100%
than I will be with pads on, because one ends up with me catching the ball, maybe the other one ends up with me in the hospital.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Like,
big difference.
You want to bring out the gurney. You know, it's like, it's not going to go well for me. But like, if Riley had a fifth year, boy, that'd have been a really tough decision to make, because you're like, dude, like, that guy's just a winner, man. Like, yeah, I know and fortunately we didn't have to, you know, some decisions you're just glad that the universe makes for you. You know, it's like, you don't have to worry about that one. But it's just actually, like, there's been a lot of great questions. This is one of my favorite ones. Like, this is we don't get asked this question very much. Usually it's like, well, what are the throws that they can make that he couldn't? But I like this one. I like it. Any of them that involve just like, well, and also the other throw that game is, remember the throw he made on the 3rd and 9 early on the back shoulder? He got drilled on that play. Same thing happened against Indiana on that post throw. A lot of people forget that because we just follow the ball to Jordan Faison. He got nailed on that post throw to Jordan Faison. Nailed. Do those kids have the guts to make that throw in that moment? Those were both playoff games. I don't know. I know Riley did, because I'd seen him do it before he got to Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Right? But those are things that we don't know if those guys have those throws. We may see them go out there and make those same exact throws and be like, this is going to be a fun year. But we don't know. I know CJ can throw a better post route than Riley Leonard.
Right.
But how many times is a game-winning play made on a post throw?
Yeah.
It's usually the other stuff, the off schedule, you know, whatever, fitting the ball in on a back shoulder or something like that are the game winners. You think of the one against Texas A&M as another example.
Well, I love this question because it shows that there's more than one way to do things. I mean, this entire offseason, it's been a lot of, you know, now that Riley's gone, how is Notre Dame going to pick up short 3rd and 4th downs? Well, it's not that long ago that, you know, last year it's, why does Denbrock never want to throw it on 3rd down? They'll never see it coming. There's multiple ways to do things. Riley Leonard showed one of the ways to get things done, and CJ Carr, Kenny Minchie shows the other side. So that's a great question. I'm with you guys.
I just have to respond to this real quick, because Chief Brody, who, again, love Chief Brody, I'm busting his chops a little bit here, but he says, no worries, my degree is in statistics. I'm just going to trust data more than people, generally speaking, which means you have a bias. That's the whole point. You have a bias towards numbers, so you're going to trust the numbers, even though the result of the numbers is atrocious over the years, because that's your expertise, where I am a football coach who looks at it differently. I'm going to come from a different point. That's the whole point. That's why I like the committee more than a computer system. My issue with the committee is not that there is a committee. The issue with the committee is the makeup of the committee. That's more of my issue, because you're putting people that it's almost impossible to remove their bias from the conversation. Like, they should have no ADs or former ADs. Maybe you can have former coaches. I mean, I'm not completely against that. I think there should be some media representation in that room. I don't know who that would be. I worry that you'd get people that don't really know football. They'd probably make it like a spectacle, like Colin Cowherd and
they'd put Dave
and
Portnoy
Stephen
in
A.
it.
Smith and Dave Portnoy and people like that in there instead of like people that actually know football. But yeah, it's impossible to remove bias. You just have to create a system where the rules as much as possible can eliminate that bias. And computers cannot think critically, especially in 2002. And that's the reality. The computers can't think of, well, yeah, this team didn't have their starting quarterback those first 4 games. So yeah, their points may say they're better, but how do you account for the fact that their starting quarterback missed the only game they lost early in the season? How can a computer account for? Do you guys know what that team was dealing with? They had a bunch of people they knew that died like the day before. Like a computer can't look at that and think critically of, over the course of a 12-game season, I know that the data says this, but it's just it's wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that, or just to your point, Brian, or just eye test. There's no data point that can be, and sometimes you just look at teams and say, yeah, just no one wants to face them right now. Right. The 2016 USC team, there's no data point for eye test, but you knew at the end of the season, nobody wanted to face them.
Yeah. Like somebody said, AI could do, like, you guys know, AI is still it was still created by a human. We don't want to be in an AI world where AI creates itself. Like, have none of you young people watched Terminator? Come on, man. You know what I mean? We don't want Skynet to go active. Come on now. I'm kidding before someone emails me. I can't believe you're talking about AI. You don't know nothing about that. It's a joke.
No, they come up with funny pictures.
You're going to get an email. I actually work for Skynet.
Yes, and we would never do that. Our Terminators are nice and friendly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cameron Ford, do you think there's still room in the sport for a team that represents something higher than itself, like tradition, moral formation, and holistic development of young men, especially as the playoff becomes a de facto professional league? Or will the new landscape inevitably force Notre Dame to adopt a utilitarian model that prioritizes raw talent over character, loyalty, and mission? This is like one extreme to the other, man.
I think I love where you're coming from, Cameron, but I think the premise is flawed. I think you assume that like money is the root of all evil. Money is not evil inherently. It's kind of like this. I don't drink alcohol. Vince, you don't drink alcohol. Trevor, you do. Does that make us morally superior people to you? No. What would make us more superior is we don't get drunk and go out and drive in traffic when we can barely see straight. Like, it's not alcohol. Like, man, I was doing okay till that alcohol like kidnapped me, forced itself down my throat for 3 hours, and then forced me into the car to drive. It's like somebody says like, oh, an SUV plowed through. No, a dude driving an SUV plowed through a crowd of people because he was drunk. Not the SUV didn't like kidnap him. I mean, not yet, like we were just talking about AI, not yet. You know what I'm saying? But like, alcohol is not the evil. It's the manner in which it was abused that is the evil. And food is something that we need to survive. You can abuse it. You can overeat. You can do, like, look at me. If you don't eat healthy food, if you eat too much food, then your body is not as healthy as it should be. Is food the problem or am I the problem? Is alcohol the problem or are you the problem? You know what I mean? And it's just like with a lot of things, you're assuming that because players are getting paid now, that means you're looking for just mercenaries. No, I would argue that what Ohio State proved last year and what Notre Dame proved last year is that still looking for character is something that matters. We may not like Ryan Day, but I've never heard a group of athletes talk about Jesus more than what I heard the Ohio State football team talk about more last year. And the only team that was close to them was the Notre Dame football team last year. Now, that doesn't mean that people of faith are the only good football players. I'm making the point that they valued something that was more than just money. You don't have to agree with their faith or the things they believe or trust your life to Jesus. I wish you all would. But the point is there was something different about that team that went beyond they got money to stay, which is why they were able to overcome some of the coaching issues they had last year and win a championship. And so I think what Ohio State did is Ohio State went out and got some transfer players that built around a core foundation of players that had a lot of the things that you're talking about. Like you can't tell me that there wasn't some character to that Ohio State football team last year. May not have always liked how it manifested. I thought it was kind of buffoonish to be as upset at the end of the Michigan game as you were. Hey, maybe if you'd have been that pissed off during the game, you wouldn't have lost to Michigan. But how did they respond to it, though? They respond to it by just running the table the rest of the way. And you look at that team and how they just came together. Were there some individuals on the team that weren't of great character? Yeah, I think we kind of saw recently that that's true. But guys, I had to break it to you. There's been some guys on Notre Dame teams that you love and adore who weren't very good people either. Not many, but if we're going to play that game of, well, Ohio State had a player that got arrested, Notre Dame had a running back get arrested on their 2012 title team that did something pretty bad off also. You know what I mean? So I just like that stuff still matters. Just because players are in a playoff now, just because they're getting played doesn't mean that coaches don't still value hard work, loyalty, commitment, work ethic. That's why teams that are winning are not teams that are going out and getting 30 portal guys every offseason. So, and there are some coaches who don't care. I don't think Kirby Smart really cares about that stuff. I think Kirby Smart's totally fine with having more arrests over the period of time as long as those arrests don't equal more wins and he's getting championships. I'm sorry, I don't believe that. Why do I say that? Because the evidence of how he's run his program tells me that he doesn't really care about that. But you can't tell me that Marcus Freeman doesn't care about his players. You can't tell me that Dabo Swinney doesn't care about his players. You know, you can't. There's a lot of coaches you could say that about. That you can't tell me that. Say whatever you want about Jim Harbaugh, but that guy would go to the mattresses to defend his players. I don't like the way he did it, but he did. So I think that it's a false equivalence. A false equivalent, perhaps, is the proper way to say that, where you're saying, well, if this is there, then this must be the byproduct, and are you okay with that kind of thing? And you don't tell me that Ohio State players didn't value the tradition of being Ohio State Buckeyes last year. I mean, again, you talk about holistic development. Just because their head coach may not be that way doesn't mean that there aren't assistant coaches who value those things. But they didn't just out-talent people last year, because there were teams that had as much talent as Ohio State last year that weren't as good. So I still think the teams that win still value those things. Tradition, developing young people, character, loyalty, mission. And I think if anything, Notre Dame is evidence that is still very prominent in today's era. Because right now, Notre Dame is as hot as anybody in college football right now with what they're doing on and off the field. So, and those things are very much at the heart of the Notre Dame program.
Yeah, you don't have to sell your soul to be good at football like that.
Some do.
Right, 100%. But I would also kind of parlay that into the whole recruiting thing. Well, Notre Dame's doing well in recruiting; they must be paying more for their players. Yeah. Are they paying for some players? Are they giving them good NIL packages? Yeah, I mean that's part of the landscape of where things are. But they're not overbidding on people just to get kids in the building. Mm-hmm. It's bigger than that. So it's not just if you have a high recruiting class, you must be paying tons of money, and it's not if you're good at football, you must be looking for the most money and you have no morals. Two things can be be correct at the same time, I guess is the best way to put it. And that's why Notre Dame is trying to get the right kind of guys, the right kind of players, and all of those kinds of things. And yes, are they paying them? Of course, but you don't have to get rid of every other part of your personality in order to just be a good football player. Now,
does money being as involved in the way that it is create a greater risk of those things being lost? Absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. I absolutely agree.
But they don't inherently cause that. Just like
correct.
Consuming alcohol doesn't inherently cause you to be an alcoholic or to drive while intoxicated. I know plenty of people that have my wife, right now she can't drink alcohol, but once we're through this period, good news or bad news, then she has no problem having a glass of wine with dinner. But you know what she does every time she has a glass of wine at dinner? She makes sure that she's with someone else who isn't. So she'll have one with me. And that's not sinful. I don't not drink because the Bible tells me not to drink alcohol, because what was one of the greatest miracles Jesus ever did? He turned water into wine, baby. Yeah. And I don't want to hear that, well, wine was different back then. I get all that. But if you drank a lot of it, you're still going to get intoxicated.
Correct.
You know what I mean? So I just believe that it's not those Now, I mean, there's some things you should never consume. I'm sorry, there's no good a reason to go to a party and smoke crack. Like not everything is meant for good. I'm just saying, like, normal things, money, it's a necessity in certain areas. You can abuse it. Marriage is a very great, healthy thing. You can abuse it. Food is a thing that we need to survive. You can abuse it. So I think it's like with anything, it's just, you just have to make sure that you're putting up guardrails, which the NCAA has failed to do, put up guardrails to make sure that this doesn't corrupt the sport. So I will give you this, Cameron. I do think there's a fear that I have of, if it's not handled properly, that it could create a system where those things are no longer valued, but they don't inherently do so.
Fair. Ballpeen Shillelagh, it seems that strength of schedule has become the elephant in the room of college football playoff selection, causing some teams, USC, to dodge hard games.
Here's more.
If you were made the CFB commissioner, what concrete steps would you take to change the selection system and encourage hard scheduling and classic rivalries?
Well, one thing that I would do if I was the commissioner, so I can set whatever rules I want to set. First thing I would do is I would say we're gonna look at strength of schedule, but strength of schedule cannot just be what you do in your league. Strength of schedule means you have challenged yourself outside of your league as well. And for a team like Indiana, I almost look back and say, I now almost wish the committee would have put in a Miami or an Alabama over Indiana just to make a point to Indiana so they don't do what they've just done. You dropped Virginia to add Kennesaw State and some other team. Like, really? You better go undefeated or you're not getting in. The problem with Alabama and Ole Miss is that, guys, you did not get in because you lost 3 games. You got in because of who you lost to and the manner in which you lost. Ole Miss, don't lose to 4-8 Kentucky and you're in the playoffs. Alabama, don't lose to either 6-6 Vanderbilt or either 6-6 Oklahoma. Just beat one of them and you're in the playoffs. South Carolina has a little bit of a different thing because I think their losses were good losses. They lost to like Bama, Ole Miss, and LSU. And the LSU game, I still say if Lenora Sellers doesn't get hurt in that game, I think they win that game. That's part of life. South Carolina has a better beef than anybody else. They just didn't have quite as good of a win as those other teams did. But it's not about creating a system. It's just about, if you're going to say strength of schedule matters, then you've got to define what strength of schedule means. It's not just some computer system where basically every year the SEC is going to have the toughest schedule. Well, some years that may be true, and other years it may not be true. But I want to see you challenge yourself out of conference. I want to see, now that you're in an era where you got to go on the road to win a playoff game, I need to see you go on the road against someone other than your league. I want to see you guys test yourselves outside of your conference. And then, I am going to put value on strength of schedule, but part of it is like, look, strength of schedule can't just be this end all be all, because we didn't have as tough a schedule as you, but we annihilated everybody we played. And that was kind of the argument I used for Indiana last year. Yeah, they didn't play a tough schedule, but they destroyed everybody they played outside of Michigan and Ohio State, right? But it gets to the point where it's like, okay, you better hope there's a bunch of 3-loss teams, because every single one of those 3 SEC teams that didn't get in would have got in if they only had 2 losses over Indiana. They would have. Just don't lose the 3rd game to a bad team. Looking back on it, I almost do wish Miami kind of would have got in over Indiana, because I'm so bitter about what they just did, canceling Virginia game, and didn't cancel to like, hey, we need to up our non-conference. We're going to cancel Virginia and we're going to go schedule Ole Miss or Arkansas or TCU or something like that. Not asking to play Bama. I'm just saying don't play Kennesaw State and what's the other one, like something like Western Carolina or something stupid like that. It was a joke. It was ridiculous.
I'm trying to remember who it was.
It's like Western Illinois or something.
We talked about it yesterday. I just have to find it.
Yeah, I'm going to say they canceled the Virginia.
Kennesaw State, Austin P, and Eastern Illinois is who they.
It's a joke.
Who they put on the schedule?
It's an absolute joke. When we play 9 conference games, I don't want to hear it. There's 18 teams in the league. There's a good chance your schedule is going to be filled with bad teams.
Right.
And
or you may have one or two tough games. Okay,
yeah,
great.
Especially this portal era where just because a team was good last year doesn't mean they're going to be good this year.
Right.
Florida State went from 13-1 to 2-10. You know, Michigan State a couple years ago went from 3-9 to 11-2 because they went and got some guys in the portal, Kenneth Walker and some guys like that. It's ridiculous. So and Miami didn't cancel their Notre Dame game; they moved it to another year. Just so we're clear on that one. And I didn't like that, but they still went on the road and beat Florida, who beat Ole Miss. I mean, like that's still a better win than just about anything Indiana did last year.
Oh,
and they blew Florida out. Miami went on the road and beat Louisville. That's better than anything. Like Miami's a team that honestly you look back and saying hindsight 2020, knowing like I still probably go with Indiana, but if I'm just right now I'm real bitter about just what they did with their schedule. I almost feel like I wish they would now be punished. But that's ultimately it's a long way of me saying punish teams that just purposely schedule poorly. Like I'm not hammering Georgia for their schedule like their non-conference last year. Like was it wasn't Georgia. Who was it last year? It was Georgia 2 years ago. The 2023 team you're talking about, Trevor. They had a thing that hurt them. They had a weak schedule.
Yeah. Well,
that's not their fault. They had a weak schedule because the SEC canceled their matchup against Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
That's not their fault. Like Texas trying to scheduling a road. I remember Hammers. Texas didn't have a strong schedule. That's not their fault. It's not their fault that Michigan was down. They scheduled Michigan on the road. There was an intention to schedule somebody good. The year Bama played Florida State, and they were not that good that year. Okay, they were ranked in the top 5 for a reason because the intention was there. When you intentionally schedule Vanderbilt, your intention is to not – they might end up being good that year, but your intention was clearly not to play somebody that was good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I look at Ohio State. Ohio State's going to play Michigan every year. They're going to play Penn State most years. Who do they schedule in their non-conference the next 4 years, the next 6 years? Texas, Bama, nobody, Georgia. There's an intention to begin. Now, what if Bama's not good in 2028? The intent is still there. You try to challenge yourself, and I'm going to take that into consideration. But at the end of the day, you're trying to get the best teams. And sometimes the team with the best strength of schedule is not one of the best teams.
Agreed.
You can't control what other teams do. Yeah, our schedule sucked, but you know what we did? We killed everybody we played. And that's why we should be there. You know, yes, Alabama, you had a tough schedule last year. It wasn't tougher than Georgia's, and they only lost 2 games. And they didn't lose to anybody that sucked. You lost to 2 teams that are mediocre. You know, Ole Miss, you lost somebody that's just downright sucked last year. I mean, I'm sorry, you lost at home to a team that sucked last year.
Yeah.
And if that's their only loss, they're getting in. Just like Notre Dame's getting in by losing to Northern Illinois. You can't do that and lose to Florida and lose to Georgia. You know, you can't do that. Not Georgia. Who's the other team they lost to? They beat Georgia. Who's the third loss for Ole Miss?
Kentucky.
They lost Kentucky, Florida, and who was their third loss? Was LSU. They lost to LSU in overtime.
That's right.
So that's kind of my stance on it is, like, I'm fine. There's no perfect system, guys. You just have to apply it consistently and fairly.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, encourage teams to play out of conference. I'm putting a lot more value on teams that challenge themselves out of conference. If anything, the system that I would create would force leagues to go to 8 games. Because, like, I understand why the Big Ten has been set on 9 conference games, because they always had 10 teams. So you're playing 9 games because you want to play everybody. I respect that. I respected it when the Big Ten played 9 games because you're playing everybody. There's no missing Ohio State one year. The minute you went to 14, 16, 18 teams, I stopped caring about you playing 9 conference games.
Right.
Because you're not getting Michigan and Penn State, and you're not getting the same teams where I can evaluate you compared to somebody else because you played everybody in your league. You didn't miss a team. I don't care about drop a game, pick up another you're gonna get a lot more out of dropping this team and playing Notre Dame. Even if it means catching an L, that's going to look better for you than your win over Rutgers in your 9th conference game. If you handle business in your league. And that's what the committee needs to reward those teams. If Ohio State goes 10-2 in 2026 and they lose a tough conference game and then lose by a field goal at Texas, they're in over an 11-1 team or a 12-0 team that's got a crap schedule. That just a fact. A fact. So that's what they need to do. So, yeah.
Agreed.
Tristan, whenever the topic of kick punt returns is brought up, Brian has mentioned a rule change. What is the current rule? What is the old rule? And when did the rule change happen?
Well, they used to kick off from closer, or from further back. So I forget what year it was. But the big rule changes were in the last 10 years, they've gotten rid of the wedge. So you used to be able to wedge.
Yeah.
And the way you used to do kickoffs is
everybody be spread out, then everybody comes together.
And then you'd have to hammer through the wedge, and that's when a lot of injuries were happening.
That's why there was wedge busters, wedge breakers.
And that's a risk of a lot of injuries when you're doing that.
No doubt.
And so that was a big change to the rules that made returning kicks a little bit harder.
Yep.
Punt return is not so much a rule change. And the other thing that's changed is kickers are a lot more powerful legs nowadays. They can just kick it out of the end zone more than they used to.
Right. And they moved it up 5 yards.
Because it used to be from the 30, I thought.
I think so. I know it's the 35 now because it's 40 in high school. It's 35 in college.
I'm actually going to go.
That's for sure.
Go look it up.
I think the NFL was the 30, and I think they moved it up to the 35. I don't know if college ever moved. I think
the other thing was when you moved your starting position to the 25, you had more teams willing to fair catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And you created the fair catch rule. You have more teams now willing to fair catch to get the ball up to 25. Because back in the day, like Vince, if you fielded a kick, you wanted to get it out past the 20.
Correct.
That was the whole point.
If you fair caught the ball on the 5, you got the ball on the 5. Like that's what happened,
right?
On kickoffs and punts for that matter.
Right, but and now it's if you do it outside the 20, that you get it wherever or outside the 25. If you fair catch it at 35, you get 35. But if you fair caught at the 2 or went out of bounds at the 2 or whatever. But now it's if the ball's at the 2, you fair catch it and
you're out to the 25.
You're out to 25.
Right.
You'd catch it 2 yards. I mean, I was watching the 2000 Nebraska game the other day, and Julius Jones caught that sucker about a yard and a half deep in the end zone, and thought about. You guys remember this? He thought about not running it out.
Right. He hesitated.
And then changed his mind. And no, I'm looking at from 1988 highlights, and it was still 35.
Okay. So I don't think college ever moved. I know the pros have moved a couple times.
Yeah. The wedge was the big one.
That was massive because it's really hard to block.
Yeah.
It's really hard to block when you're a receiving team and the kicking team is coming at you full speed. That's hard to block a guy.
It's almost like if you're a fan of war, it's almost like we're laying down some cover fire while, you know what I mean? Like this. Remember the scene from Independence Day? Plow the road, just we're plowing the road. Now you can't really do that. Punt return is more of a philosophical change from teams that punt.
Agreed.
It's just, it used to be where they'd have the U-shaped thing, right? They'd be in their punt formation. You'd have up backs. You'd have a personal protector and then 2 outside guys. And then everybody except the 2 gunners was responsible for protect.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't know who started it, but since they do this, the shield has gotten moved to punt return, but it's a different, less dangerous type of shield. And so now you've got those 3 big guys back there, and now you can kind of turn more guys loose to cover.
Right.
And you've got more of the rugby kicking and things like that, and
all
which
kinds of
allows
guys
to get. It's not a rule change; it's more of a philosophical change.
Correct.
From punt teams has impacted return teams,
and
you used to pick up returns. I'm sorry, Vince. Let me finish this.
Yeah.
In the past, you would step and then take off running to set up your wall, while the other team is still. Oh shoot, they're taking off. We're in pass set mode. Now it's there's just dudes who take one and go. And so you can't run a wall when those guys are just flying down there.
Right.
So that's what changed on punt return.
Right. And the punt teams, to your point, they've changed the way they punt, and they have now protected bad punters, to be perfectly honest. So what guys will do is they'll hold the ball longer, allow their guys to get down there, and then they just kind of kick a line drive and kick it kind of away from where the receiver is, and it still accomplishes the same thing as if you're in the normal punt pocket and you just boom a punt with high loft and everything, and allows your guys to get down
also
there.
Creates more risk for the other team because if it bounces off the head of one of your guys, it's just down right there.
Exactly.
If it bounces head of one of those guys that's way down the field trying to block,
right.
then all of a sudden it's your ball. You could recover it.
Philosophy has just like the team that Dylan's going to pick the punter that they had. He wasn't very good, but he would just kind of roll out, hold on to it, kick a line drive. But his guys were already down there, and they never returned the kicks. Because
subscriber to our show, Vince, by the way, just be nice.
Well, it is what it is. But like they protected him because they didn't have a real like a boomer. You know what I mean? That's the point that I'm making. But it still accomplished the same thing. That it wasn't pretty, but it still accomplished the same thing.
Yeah.
And so the philosophies have changed.
And they didn't change the rule because the kid from Rutgers got his neck broke. Because that was one of but it was because that was in a line of a lot of injuries over the years of that type of thing. Like there are statistics that have shown like way more injuries happen on a per snap basis on kickoff and kick return than like more injuries don't happen in the kick game. They just don't. Just raw numbers of injuries. But the per play number was way higher.
Because there's less kicking plays.
But but to Andrew's point, there needed to be some moment that was that seminal we now have to act upon it moment. So that was more of what like was one of the final drivers, but it had been leading to that for a long time. So the two changes there, the wedge and then moving the start spot out to the 25. More offensive teams were willing to just accept not returning a kick and going to the 25.
Yep.
Well, Brian, I was texting you last night when you sent over the Nebraska-Florida game. I texted you and Ivan said, dude, somebody gets hurt on every kickoff.
Everyone.
On every single one.
Right. Now, part of that was just the physicality. But like back then, you were trying to pin them inside the 5 and you're trying to get out because you got to get out past the 20. And now it's like, shoot, I'll just fair catch and get out to 25 because I can't wedge it.
Yeah.
Like the one on where Jacquez Green got hurt, there's like 3 dudes that landed on him at once. You know,
that one was rough.
And when you were looking to put together a kickoff team, you were just looking for those guys that didn't care. Like that just wanted to, they were going to wedge bust that thing and just bodies flying everywhere. Yeah. Like it was just a different mentality.
Yeah.
Back then,
it's like, I love kick returns and that's why I'm going to have to study more of the NFL rule that they've adopted.
The new one.
Because I want to see more returns, but I'm also okay. Like a kickoff and a kick return is not normal football. You don't run 60, 70 yards in order to build up steam to just crash your body into somebody.
Right.
A wall of people. Like I get that. I've had to do that before in high school and in college. So it's like, nah, like I get that. That's a very high risk of injury. So I'm okay changing it. I just wish that we would just continue to evolve the rules to still make the return game an exciting part of the game, which I think the NFL is trying to do. Yeah. I don't know know the success of it, and I'm not 100% sure of the rule and all that, but I'm okay being open to that because I do think kicking the return game is, especially if you're a Notre Dame fan, how do you not love the return game? Right. Because of how many big games have been impacted by that.
Yeah.
Michigan, and if you're a Michigan fan in the late 80s, you think returning should be abolished
because forever.
Notre Dame beat them in 88 because of Ricky Waters' punt return. Rocket returns 2 kickoffs for scores. Bo Schembechler, I think that was his 29th or 30th year. This was his last year at Michigan. He had never given up a kick return for a touchdown at Michigan, ever, in his entire tenure at Michigan.
Whoops.
And Rocket did it to him twice in that game. So, yeah, I can understand Michigan being like leading charge, like, we need to get rid of this part of the game, but that's kind of my thing is those are the big changes. I'm glad that we now finalized they didn't move the kickoff. The NFL is the one that moved the kickoff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff.
We talk special teams the whole time. Let's go.
Yeah. We're not going to do that, by the way. I mean, we could.
I mean, I like
technically could.
That is an option.
But we're not gonna.
I like the hesitation, like you were thinking about it. Like that's how I read that, just so you know. But anyway, Cameron Ford, if Notre Dame had joined the Big Ten back in the 90s, how different is the program today? On the field, culture, and nationally, did independence save Notre Dame's soul?
I do believe this to be true. Yes. I just think there's something different about your program when you're independent. And I think part of the anger and the vitriol that Penn State fans have for Notre Dame is because they couldn't do it. Like, they've convinced themselves, no, we joined the Big Ten because we wanted to. No, you didn't. You joined the Big Ten because once the TV, we have to deal with facts. In the 1980s, there was a court case that basically removed the ability to determine who's on TV and how much you get paid from the NCAA. They controlled what you got paid and who was on TV and all that. And then that allowed conferences to make their own TV deals. That allowed the TV companies to deal with whoever they wanted to deal with. If they wanted to just go on and sign Ohio State, they could have done that. Now, that would have been a little challenging from the standpoint of, how's the Big Ten going to feel about that? That might have created some issues. But, technically, there were no rules saying they couldn't. It was unlikely to happen. And then there's all these independent teams: Notre Dame, Miami, Penn State, Pitt, Syracuse, Louisville, all these teams. There's I think it was 25 independent teams in 88 when Notre Dame won the title. Well, then Notre Dame signs their deal with NBC, and it was inevitable that Florida State and Penn State and Miami were either A, going to get their own TV deal, or B, join a conference, because you couldn't survive being an independent anymore, because now there's just this huge influx of revenue coming into your programs and through TV deals. And Notre Dame was the only team that really had the ability to have sort of that national pull to do it. I think the only other team that would have had a shot to do it then is probably Miami. Miami was a bit of a national they had a national appeal, partly because why? They played everywhere. I mean, Miami didn't just play in the Southeast. We've talked about this, but in 1988, Miami not only played Notre Dame, but they also played at Michigan, or they played Wisconsin, they played Missouri, they played Tulsa, they played Arkansas, they played BYU, they played LSU, they played all over. And it was a different era back then. Whereas Penn State tended to play more regionally. And, that was one of the things that was a little bit different. 1983, when Miami won their first championship under Howard Schnellenberger, they played Florida, they played at Houston, they played Purdue, they played Notre Dame, they played Duke, Louisville, Mississippi State, Cincinnati, West Virginia, East Carolina, Florida State, and then beat Nebraska and Turner Gill in the title game. And so it was a different animal. And then you look at Penn State back then. Penn State played Temple, Boston College, East Carolina, Rutgers, Cincinnati, Syracuse, Alabama, West Virginia, Maryland, Notre Dame, and Pittsburgh. There's one team, Alabama, that they played outside their region. They've always been a regional program. They were a regional program that just was really good for a period of time. But they were always a regional program. They didn't have the national pull that a Notre Dame did, that a Miami did, and even to a degree that Florida State might have gotten if they'd had another 10 years to build it. I just think it happened a little bit too soon. But Florida State back then under Bobby Bowden very much had a we'll play anybody, anywhere, any place type of mentality. And, I think the sport was better for it, in my opinion. And, Ohio State used to play out. They'd play Pac-12 teams in the regular season. It just was a different era. But I think Miami's the only other team that had more of that national pull. But even they couldn't get one, or at least they were too impatient to see if one was going to come. And that was also the death of the great basketball leagues. Because once TV revenue got into it, and you realize football just makes way more money than basketball does, and it doesn't cost as much. Because in football, you need 12 games a year. Where in basketball, it's like every teams are playing 30-plus games, and, it costs a lot more. So football became the driver of the deals. Basketball was part of it, but football became the driver. So then basketball leagues started making decisions based off football. And that's why the Big East died, essentially. There's some other reasons, but that's a big driver for it. So, I think being independent certainly helped Notre Dame stay true to what makes it unique. And I think they would have lost, because think about it now, 9 of their 12 games at that time would have had to be Big Ten region games. And then you've got Navy and USC in the non-conference, and all of a sudden that's your schedule. Then you have the years you went to 12 games. You're not going to add Alabama, Texas in years where you already have to play USC and a Big Ten schedule. Just not. Not what the Big Ten was back then. So it just wouldn't have had the same pull. So, yeah, I think it absolutely did all those things. It's a great observation. Let's get to a couple more, and then we're going to wrap this up, guys. A lot of great questions, unfortunately, we can't get to.
A lot of great questions today. Ones that we've really been able to expound on. Irish for Life 99. While most expect CJ Carr to be the starter, is there any chance that Coach Freeman and Coach Denbrock have a few packages or situational looks in mind for Kenny Minchey?
I definitely think it's an option. Marcus Freeman's been very open around, he's going to do what they believe is best to help the team win. And if that also involves a Kenny Minchey package, then yeah, potentially. So, I mean, look, short answer, do I think there's a chance? I absolutely think there's a chance. How much I think we're going to see it on the field, I can't tell you. Because I'll tell you one thing, if Kenny Minchey starts, I doubt we see a CJ Carr package. So if there's a package, it would be just one way. I don't see what would CJ Carr's package be? The throwing package? Like
2 minute.
Yeah.
But like if Kenny's thrown well enough to beat CJ out, you don't need him.
Then you don't need him.
Exactly.
That's an exact point.
So is there a chance? I think so. But if whoever the starting quarterback is in a rhythm, then I just don't. Look, if there was a quarterback where you wanted like a throwing 2-minute package, it would have been last year where your quarterback was like kind of mainly a runner and had some abilities with his arm. And they didn't do that last year. So, and Kenny Minchey isn't the runner that Riley Leonard is. He does his best work from the pocket. So no,
he's not even the runner that Tyler Buckner is. I mean, honestly, if you were dead set on having a package because you felt you needed it, I'd say give it to Tyler Buckner.
Yep, I agree.
The only reason you do it with Kenny Minchey is because you just want to keep Kenny locked in, which to a degree, I understand.
I get that.
But and the other thing is I would be more like prone to accepting that if the backfield wasn't as loaded as it was. So basically you're saying, do you want to give the ball to Kenny Minchey or Jeremiah Love? Kenny Minchey or Jadarian Price? Kenny Minchey or Aeneas Williams? Kenny Minchey or Keedron Young?
I'd kind of rather have, Love and Price back there together in like a wildcat before I would do like a Kenny Minchey situation. The thing you have to ask yourself as a coach is, does bringing in a different guy give you a better chance to succeed in this moment?
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And I don't know.
With Tyler Buckner in 2021, there were moments where that absolutely did.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
There were situations where
diametrically different quarterbacks.
You weren't good enough to just line up and run it down a team's throat. And Jack Cohn offered you zero threat as a runner, where Tyler was like, okay, that's going to give you something. But even then, it's like Tyler didn't necessarily have every third down. Tyler's in the game. Every red zone, Tyler's in the game. They didn't even do that then.
Right.
So you got to look at the makeup of a particular team. There are years where I would absolutely say a Kenny Minchey package would make a lot of sense. I don't know that is the best thing for the team in 2025 if he doesn't win the job, and that's not a given. So, look, do I think CJ is going to win the job? I do, but he's going to have to win it.
Yeah.
Like Kenny's not going down without a fight, and if Kenny beats him out, then imagine how good Kenny's going to be. Like that's how I look at it. So that's why I'm not worried about who starts. It's just like I think the staff has an open mind. I don't think the staff is going in and they're not going to like, do I think there are members of the staff that they think they know who is going to win it? Yes, I believe that to be true. But that's because of what they've seen so far and what they feel of the players. But it's not like 2016 where, Vince, you remember being at practice back then. It was a rigged game. The game was rigged for Deshaun. Because if it was a fair competition, they would have set things up way differently to allow Malik's skill set. They basically said, okay, we're going to run an offense that fits Deshaun and say, but let the best man win. Well, yeah, who's going to win that one? When it's rigged for Deshaun, of course Deshaun's going to win. They knew who they wanted at quarterback and rigged the game to get that result. I think that Notre Dame had an honest competition in 2018, and Brandon won it to a degree. But they felt that to beat Michigan, you needed Brandon. Ian was close enough to where let's see how Brandon performs. But then I think after Michigan, they started changing the offense to fit more of what Ian did. When Brandon failed at it, they went to Ian. Again, I think the competition was legitimate, but I think they wanted Ian because of what they wanted the offense to be, but they knew they couldn't beat Michigan without Brandon. And that's why the offense that they had against Ball State and Vanderbilt looked way different than the one they used against Michigan. Way different. And that's because they wanted to eventually get to the Ian Book era. So I think this staff, however, is going into this saying, hey, these kids both bring a lot of the same tools to the table. We don't have to change our pass offense when Kenny's in the game, this kind of thing.
Right.
They will give Kenny opportunities to run, and that will be factored into the conversation. But it's going to be just about who moves the offense the best. I don't think there's we're going to rig the game for CJ or we're going to rig the game for Kenny. I think they have an idea of right now who's ahead. But I also believe that if Kenny goes out there and just outperforms CJ all fall camp, he's going to start.
So be it.
Like, I really don't think that there's I don't think there's a preference. I think there's a belief of this is who we think is going to win it because this is who we think is the better quarterback. But they want to see that guy win it, and they're not closing the door to the other kid having that shot. And if the other kid outplays them, they're going to go with the other kid. I truly believe that. I just, at the end of the day, just think Kenny's a heck of a player. I just think CJ's better.
Yeah.
So, oh boy, Archer, real quick, man. I honestly don't have a clue what goes into their algorithm. Basically, they run like 1,000 simulations, and it's basically based on the odds based on the 1,000 simulations. It's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
How they can release it with a straight face.
I don't think they can. They know it's going to get clicked on. I think that's really
how can you put that out and be like, yep, Notre Dame has the 20th, 19th best.
Yeah, we're going to give Duke and Iowa and Washington and Ole Miss.
Make sense. You want to put them fifth,
SMU.
sixth. Yeah. Let's have a discussion about it. But 19th, like that just doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah,
even the biggest Notre Dame hater in the world would be like, come on, guys, like look at these teams that are above. Like, what are we doing? So it's just ridiculous. Nathan Williams, can you explain your ranking system? All right, so this is for Brian. Like, do you have the arbitrary 32 5-star players, and how many players in the 26 class have 5-star upside?
I look at it like this. If there's 5 players that earn a 5-star grade, then there's only 5 5-stars. If there's 50 players that earn a 5-star grade, then there's 50 5-stars. I would say that if you start getting up towards like 50 5-stars, then you might think that maybe your grading system is a little bit too light to 5 stars. I've done that. I started getting some guys that, like, my system was the very beginning when I first started this point system. It's like, okay, I have a gut that this guy's this kind of player, but my system is producing a lot more of these, a lot more 4 stars or a lot more 5-star. I'm like, I don't know that guy's a 5-star. So like Josh Barajas, who I had as a 5-star then, I would not have as a 5-star now. He still would have been top 50. I'm not acting like, I didn't like him as much as, no, I thought Josh Barajas was going to be really good. And I got that one wrong. But you always tweak it. But no, it's if there's the number of 5-stars is set at the number of players that I think are elite players. Like they do the 32 because that's the number of first round picks, which is stupid because number one, no first round is being taken from a class. First rounds are made up of, the draft is made up of at least 3 classes. And the last few years, it's 4 because it's
years, COVID and
5th years and 6th years.
Right, exactly.
And then for Miami, 9th years last year. I mean, like, so no, you're not going to have a single class have 32 players in a draft get picked in the top 32. And then now you're just arbitrarily, and then you put this point system to it. So like the number 32 guy is automatically a 5-star. The number 33 guy is automatically a 4-star. Which means one guy's a 6.1 thing and the other guy's a 6. So all of a sudden, this 32 versus 33 creates. I remember I did that math a couple weeks ago. Creates this big gap in a play. That's silly. But how many players have 5-star upside? Let me pull up my class ranking, and I'll tell you that. On the message board, I do have under IB recruiting features. I have my my commits big board on there. So my current 5-star upside guys are Javian Osborne, Jonas Walton, Caden Finley, Ian Premer, Tyler Merrill, Rodney Dunham, Ebenezer Atade, Joey O'Brien, Kari Adams, 9. So I have 9 guys with 5-star upsides. I have a strong feeling that when I finally get a chance to see some senior film that Grayson McHugh is going to jump up to a 5-star as well. There's a chance that a guy like Tiki Hola, who I like a lot, could jump into that category. There's also a chance that if Tyler Merrill doesn't show me better feet as a senior, I may take his 5-star upside away. But that always changes. I evaluate senior year. Sometimes I've taken 5 stars away. More often than not, I add a 5-star to a guy who just continues to improve. So there's some other players in this conversation that have a chance to gain a 5th star, but it just depends on what their senior year film looks like. I thought about with Grayson McHugh because I love his upside. I just need to see one more year of offensive line film to really bump him up to like, yeah, this guy could be a, top 50.
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
But you just look at it and you're like, dude, I just have a feeling that it's going to be. Like I said last year, I said, I think Leonard Moore is going to jump up to a 5-star once I see senior film. I said that in shows, but then we just never got to see the senior film. He played like 4 games. He was banged up all year. But, the tools were there. There's just some things I needed to see development-wise as a senior, and I just never got a chance to see those. But, yeah, it's a 9 out of 26. And I've also gotten a little bit more strict with who I'm giving 5 stars to. I've kind of – because otherwise you can say, well, you throw a 5-star to everybody. That way you never get it wrong if a guy breaks out. Oh, yeah, I had Nick Reddish as a 5-star upside guy. Oh, yeah, I had Dylan Faison as a Oh, yeah, I totally saw that. No, you didn't. Shut up. Because then it loses its meaning. And I just felt there at times like, okay, now everybody's kind of got a 5-star upside kind of. And it's like, no, that's so that there's always tweaks to it. When you start, how I get to that is you start evaluating like, why am I missing? Like I used to miss on big receivers all the time. Like, I was always way higher on big receivers than I should have been because my personal bias. I love big receivers because they can they're never covered. But I'd miss on a lot of big receivers. I missed on Dan Buckner. I missed on Micah Jones. I missed on a lot of big receivers. You got to say, okay, not every case is a miss. Some guys just don't work hard. Some guys get hurt. I mean, we know why Josh Barajas was never the player in college that he was in high school. We all know the reason why. Still a miss. He didn't pan out. It's okay, here's why. So then I have to tweak my grading system to show that I have a bias towards bigger players. So I need to throw some categories in there where a bigger player is maybe not going to do as well as a smaller player to try to create a more fair system where that eliminates some of my biases. And, I think you're always evolving. And teams do that in the NFL all the time. Hey, why are we missing on drafting offensive linemen? Well, we need to change our how we're going about this because we keep missing. I think that's what any good analyst should do. You don't just keep doing the same thing over and over again. You always should be evaluating yourself. Like, why do I miss on this position all the time? Start factoring it in and figuring out why and adjust. And sometimes it's just your own evaluation. You need to change your system. You just need to change how you evaluate that system. So that can be part of it too. All right, just a couple more. There's one.
Jason Rose. Hey, Brian, with the 26th class coming to a close, who are some of your early favorites in the 27 class for Notre Dame?
This is very, very early. And there's a lot of 27 kids I haven't watched yet, but just some early ones. Because a buddy of mine called me last night. He's like, hey, could you send me some film of some of your early top guys that Notre Dame has a shot with? And so I obviously sent him Teddy Gerard and Quentin Burrell, the receiver from Illinois. Love that kid. Julius Jones Jr. is a stud. There's a Grant Haviland is a tight end from Georgia I like a lot. He's a really good player. Defensive line wise, I really like the tackles. Love Braden Parks' film. Love Devin Robertson. Cooper Witten's a dude. He's played safety. He'll be a linebacker in college. There's a kid named Xavier Hassan who's a corner from North Carolina that I love his film already on. So those are some of my early ones. And I'm actually going to be starting probably next week. I'm going to start every day putting out one of those prospect bios with the quick film evals and quick grades out for 27 kids. So I'm going to start putting out a lot of my top guys right away. So you'll start getting that next week if you remember the message board. Jason, I think you are. So I'm going to start pumping those out every day. Most days, not every day, but like most days I'm going to be getting those out starting next week as I start to transition more to 2027. So,
and Brian, where can people get on the board if they're not already?
Boards.irishbreakdown.com. Okay, absolutely.
Gotcha. Okay.
Real quick, Pete Weber says, are you listening to radio broadcasts of the game? I've always been curious about your game day norm. So first of all, I'm usually in the press box. So, but I have headphones on because I've finally been diagnosed with I think it's called misophonia. I think is what it's called legitimately, because I have very bad reactions to certain sounds. So chomping of food, tapping of pens. And one of my big ones is keyboards. I get very bothered. So like there was a kid works at Notre Dame. He was a student at Notre Dame, and he was next to me, and he's just, and it was like so distracting. He's not doing anything wrong. I'm losing my mind because I can't not focus on that. And he's committing like second-degree, assault on his keyboard.
You're my favorite phrase.
Felonious assault.
Felonious assault. That's my favorite phrase
on his keyboard. Beating it like his keyboard cheated on him or something like that. It's like, and it's like I have to put headphones on, and I have Bose, and I have either brown noise or black noise or white noise on it to drown everything out, because otherwise I'll lose my mind. And like people that have their, like, this is so disrespectful when you're in a press box and your phone's on and ding, ding, bro, we don't need to hear that. You know what I mean? Like, turn your phone off. But I could get like violent desires. I'm being serious. Like, I'm not even joking. So I was like, I had to do something about that. Like, cause it's like, and I tried my best. My mom's like, just don't let it bother you. I was like, oh yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. Just sure. Cause I choose to be annoyed by this, but yeah, it's bad. That's why, like, I was always get my own room when I was a coach. I'd always get my own room. If we had a roommate, I'd go buy my own hotel room. Cause if you snore, I can't sleep. And I also can't sleep in absolute quiet. I'm a weird guy in those things, but I'm just glad that I finally got diagnosed, because I just thought I was nuts. I am, but not because of that. So, yeah. So I have headphones on in the press box. I have to, otherwise I'll lose my mind.
I always, because you always have an iPad next to you that has like the game on, so you can like look at the replay and stuff. I always wonder if you're listening to the game. Actually, I've never asked you that question.
It's always on a delay, so it's not even really what I'm watching. And I don't want anyone else's opinion of what's happening going into my head. I want my opinions to be my own.
Gotcha.
Because then I'm like, hey, this read, and you're like, yeah, dude, you heard so-and-so say, you heard Drew Brees break that down. I'm like, well, no, I didn't. Drew and I saw the same thing. But I always feel like if you get an idea from someone else, like, look, did you guys see the breakdown that Drew Brees was making? That was a good point. You want to give somebody credit for that. Well, if I'm always reading everybody else's stuff or listening to other people's podcasts, and I'm like, okay, I had that thought, but I've never expressed it, but I heard that. Well, then do I have to then say that I got it from here? I'd rather just not listen to anybody. And then that way I can just say, this is my opinion, whether I'm right or wrong when it comes to analysis. Now, if I'm talking about like news related stuff, it's like, okay, so-and-so was there was something that came out the other day. I think it was Kyle Kelly's the first person I saw have it. So I said, hey, I responded to a report. Kyle Kelly said this, and I've confirmed that this is true. That's different than my opinion of this play is based on my opinion of the play. Right. Just because somebody else has the same opinion doesn't mean that I got it from them or they got it from me. It just means we saw the same thing. There's only so many things you can have an opinion of on a particular play that make any sense. I'm sure there's 1,000 opinions, but most of them are just like, well, that's not a good one. So no, that's kind of where I'm at on that one. So now at home, it's a different deal. I have my big TV here. I have a monitor over here and some over here, so I can have like the stats page up over here. I've got the thing over here. I got the message board over here. So when I'm not at the game, I have that set up that way. But I have sound down. I don't listen to the sound of the game. Because again, same reason. I don't want somebody else's opinion or analysis clouding mine. So, yep, that's it. And then I think there's two more I want to get to, and then we're going to get out of here. I thought this was a good one.
Crash this train. Which Notre Dame rivals fall off is more surprising as of late? Stanford or Michigan State?
I want to get your guys' opinion on this, and then I'm going to give mine because I have a definitive opinion on this one. Do you guys have an opinion of that?
I mean, I don't. The words. Well, first of all, the word rival. Don't even get me started on Stanford being Notre Dame's rival, but whatever. I won't go down.
It is, but it's just not as cool of one. I mean, when you play every year,
it's manufactured, in my opinion.
Agree with that, 100%.
Yeah,
agree. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. As far as I would say, Michigan State is more surprising because they have more of a history of being good at football, and Stanford clearly doesn't care about football. So I would say Michigan State for me is more surprising, but I also think right now there could not be different trajectories for Stanford and Michigan State right now. Stanford is here. Michigan State is here, in my opinion. Yeah. But yeah, I'd say Michigan State is more surprising.
Yeah, I'm also going to fall in line with Michigan State. Look, they've been a part of the Big Ten for a very, very long time. And I feel like their margin of fall off hasn't been as steep as Stanford's. I mean, like Stanford like fell off a cliff, and a lot of that goes into
And quickly.
like, yeah, it's been a very steep descent. And I think it's more prevalent because you remember guys like Andrew Luck from there and Christian McCaffrey and how good they were and how they were fringe playoff teams at times. I know Michigan State made the playoffs back in the mid-20 teens, but outside of that, it's not like they were an 11, 12 win team every year, but they were always good.
Mhm.
And so I don't view Michigan State's fall off as steep as Stanford's, but I think it's more surprising because I think they have a better infrastructure to succeed at football than what Stanford does.
Yeah. So my thing is I think Stanford's was way more surprising for me. And the reason I say that is because it was so sudden. This is David Shaw's tenure, 11 wins, 12 wins, 11 wins, 8 wins, 12 wins, 10 wins, 9-9, 4-4-3-3. Like it was like you guys said, fell off a cliff. Michigan State has not fallen off that cliff yet. And what they're kind of going through now is not really different than even what happened in Mark D'Antonio's era. I mean, like you think of that great run that Mark D'Antonio had, that was a 5-season stretch within 6 years. But I feel like they've just kind of gotten back to where they've always been. And part of the thing that you got to remember about their run from 2010 to 2015 is there were some down, like Ohio State had the one down year, and then they were pretty good. Michigan was a mess during a chunk of that era. You had the Rich Rod experiment, which was a failure. You had Brady Hoke during that period of time. Penn State was coming out of the child molestation stuff that was happening with Penn State, with all that stuff that happened. Bill O'Brien trying to turn the team around. They were down. Wisconsin was pretty decent back then. There were several Big Ten teams that were down. But Michigan being down was huge for Michigan State because they would take some recruits, but then they could just beat Michigan and have some success. So they had that real good 5-year stretch. But even right in the middle of that 5-year stretch, they went 3-9. I mean, like they went 11, right after it, but right in the middle of 7-6, you had 11 wins, 7 wins, 13, 11, 12, and then 3-9. But then they didn't fall off a cliff. They went back up the next year, went 10-3, then 7-6, and then 7-6, and then the COVID year. Then they went 11-2. Then they went 5-7. Then they went 4-8. Last year they had a bit of a 5-7. They're sending back up. So like they never fell off a cliff. Where for 4 years in a row, Stanford was just garbage. Michigan State last year wasn't garbage. They weren't good, but they were a scrappy team. They've had a couple garbage years. Stanford was good, pretty good, terrible, with no hope to get better. That's more surprising to me. Michigan State's always been this way. They've always been like, they'll have those stretches of really good, and then they're mediocre for a long time, then really good, and then mediocre, then really good. It's not a surprise that they're this way. Stanford's just kind of, you knew it was going to happen eventually. Eventually, Stanford was going to not have a David Shaw head coach or Jim Harbaugh head coach, and then they would fall off. I didn't think it was going to happen under David Shaw the way that it did. And I get partly why. I mean, he was kind of over the new era and recruiting, but Stanford also, like you guys said, just doesn't care about football. Like what Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw did wasn't an anomaly. They won in spite of Stanford. So not supporting football.
100%.
And it was always going to end. I just didn't think it was going to end that way. I thought they'd still be like a 7-5 to 5-7 team every year.
Slowly get down.
But even when they were bad, they weren't this bad.
Right.
I mean, let's not forget a 5-6 Stanford team in 1991 beat Notre Dame with Dennis Green. And then, of course, a really good Stanford team with Bill Walsh beat them another year. So, they were not good, but like under John Elway, they weren't a great team. John Elway never played in a bowl game, but they weren't terrible. They're awful now, bad now. Like Vandy bad before Vandy stopped being bad.
Well, they don't even have a head coach. We don't even have a coach bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not good.
So dude, there were years where Stanford's like, dude, I think that team could beat anybody. Like they could.
Because but they would bully you physically.
Yeah.
And when
they were
bully,
incredibly well coached.
Like if you can physically just bully somebody, you got a shot in any game. Regardless of style. And that's who Stanford was for a long time.
I mean, like Jim Harbaugh, you got to give him credit. Like
absolutely,
that 2010 team, not only was Jim Harbaugh a great coach. By the way, do you know who the co-D coordinator was on the 09 Stanford team? It was Andy Buh. I'm not pronouncing the last name. Who's now an analyst for Notre Dame? He's one of the safety helpers. But what turned that around? Well, number one, he had David Shaw as his offensive coordinator, but then he went out and got Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
It's like he made great hires. His offensive line coach was Mike Bloomgren, who was excellent. He had another guy before that who was really good, but like they were a very well coached football team, but they were tough as nails.
This is not something I talk about at parties, but I was a fan of Jim Harbaugh when he was at Stanford.
I was a fan of his teams. I thought he was a freaking weirdo.
Well, he was always a weirdo.
Teams were fun to watch.
But then he fell off the cliff when he went to Michigan and got real weird at that point.
Yeah.
But like
I think he was always that weird. We just didn't see it as much.
He let it out.
like seriously, like Twitter wasn't as big then.
Fair.
It was kind of that stuff was coming along, but it wasn't as big then. It was Stanford, so people didn't really cover it as much.
Right. But I always listened to his I liked listening to his press conferences when he would come to Notre Dame. Like that he was
he always had that weird stare in his eyes, like this guy wants to say some things that he's like he's thinking of saying some things, but like that guy's a little out there. You can
for sure
see it.
But
I
dug it.
always looked confused on the sidelines, like a little bit.
But he
like
wasn't.
Whenever no,
he just had that look on his face.
Like he was locked in, but the TV would pan to him, and he'd be like.
And then as his eyes went worse, and he had to start getting big old glasses, it's like, what's going on with this dude? Right?
Yeah.
But he's always weird guy. But I think that Vince, I'm joking with you that you're right.
I know.
He got weirder at Michigan. Yeah, but it was
closer, so we saw it more.
I just don't think it happened as starkly as we think it did. We just saw it way more.
That's fair.
But he's still a heck of a coach.
He's absolutely.
And David Shaw is a heck of an offensive mind. I just think David Shaw just didn't like this era, and I just think he didn't like working as much.
Yeah, and he just stopped.
When you stop caring about the work on a daily basis, you can fall off a cliff.
Right, and that's what happened.
Like you started seeing him being like the NFL draft. I'm like, this dude put a lot of time into studying the NFL draft because like this guy, and he's great in those settings because he's wicked smart, but you can't be that and be a great head coach.
Yeah.
And that's when he started to fall off. They were so well coached back in the day, and they recruit their butts off. And they benefited from Notre Dame being down because they started taking a lot of those academic kids that Notre Dame used to get all of them. Heck, Tom Carter's kid picked Stanford over Notre Dame under Brian Kelly. Think about that. And it was a heck of a player, 3rd round draft pick. Like they lost in-state kids. Paulson Adebo, when he came in Notre Dame, we all knew if Stanford offers this kid and accepts him, well, like Stanford offered him, but he hadn't been admitted to Stanford yet. We all knew if he gets admitted into Stanford, he's going to Stanford. Think about that. A top 100 athlete was like, if I get admitted to Stanford, sorry, Notre Dame, I'm going to Stanford. Like that's what Jim Harbaugh had built. That's what Marcus Freeman's built now. If you're a high academic kid, you're going to Notre Dame. Back then, it was like, you might go to Stanford instead of Notre Dame. And Andrew Luck, guys, I saw Andrew Luck at the Army All-American game. He wasn't some unknown kid that they found he was a top 100 caliber recruit from Texas. He was an Army All-American. He was at that 08 All-American game that Dane Chris was at and Michael Floyd was at. Like, I should go back and find that roster. Y'all don't even understand how great that 08 class was. Because we talk about how great that receiver class was with Michael Floyd and AJ Green and Julio Jones and all those guys. But, we forget that Andrew Luck was a quarterback in that class. Like he was a top 100 recruit in that class. Like that Terrell Pryor was in that class. Like that class was low. Patrick Johnson, now Patrick Peterson was in that class. Like that class was absolutely low. Matt Khalil was in that class. Michael Brewster was in that class. Blaine Gabbert was in that class. Tyron Smith, the old tackle, was in that class. That class was so absolutely loaded. So, but yeah, anyway, so real quick, we have a super chat and then we'll get out of here after this super chat.
Drew Rainey, thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate it very much. He's got a buy, sell, hold on a Friday. So buy, sell, hold, Tim Brown, Golden Tate, Will Fuller.
I would okay, so looking back, knowing what we know, I didn't live it, so I'll try my best to not do the lazy, well, I didn't watch Tim Brown, and I'm just going back and watching. If I had to do this, I would buy Tim Brown, I would hold Golden Tate, and I'd sell Will Fuller. They were all great. There's no wrong answer here, but
that's exactly
Tim Brown was not just a great receiver, but Tim Brown was also a dynamic return man in college. Like, I mean, that's why he won the Heisman Trophy. Is not just it wasn't just because he was a very good receiver, and he was a very good receiver. But you go back and watch the Michigan State game in 1987, and he was pretty good. And the year he won the Heisman Trophy, Tim Brown had 39 catches for 846 yards and 3 touchdowns. Carried the ball 34 times for 144 yards, but he also had 3 punt returns for touchdowns. In the 2 previous years, he had 3 kick returns for touchdowns. He had 6 returns for touchdowns in his career. Now, Golden Tate was a pretty good returner. I mean, I remember the Pitt kick return, but Will Fuller was just a great receiver. Golden could just do more if you couldn't just take him out of the game because you could slow him down as a pass catcher. Tim Brown, you could shut him down on offense, and he still might take 2 back to the house in the return game. You know what I mean? It's like, don't mess up and kick it to him. Right. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what makes him so different.
Yep. Yeah. Agreed. That's my exact order for all the reasons that you just said.
Yeah.
I just think Golden Tate's a little bit more well-rounded than Will Fuller.
Yeah.
Like, as a –
you can do jets, you can do wildcats, you can return kicks.
Yeah. I can do a little bit more with him, and so that's the only reason I take him over Will Fuller. But you're right, there's no wrong answer here.
I got to bring this one up real quick, guys. PJC 1122, whose coaching capability was worse, Brian Van Gorder or Charlie Molnar? That's an easy answer. It's Charlie Molnar.
Wow.
He's a worse coach than Brian Van Gorder, no doubt. And also, hey, John A1, could you do me a favor? I love this question, but that's going to be another long answer, and we gotta get out of here. Could you throw this on the board, John? I know you're a board member, because I think this is actually going to be – that's a great question. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner, because if I'd have seen it sooner, I'd have brought it up earlier. That's a phenomenal question. But if you could throw that on the board, John, I'd love to have that conversation. That'd be a lot of fun. But other than that, we gotta run. That's it for today, guys.
All right. Well, everybody, hey, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Really appreciate it. Again, Friday Free-For-All Mailbag's best show of the week. We really appreciate you guys, because it doesn't work unless you guys give us good questions. And we definitely had some good questions today. So really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. Hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, share with your family and friends. Mr. Driscoll.
Monday, we're going to have Sean Davis call me today. He had a great idea for Monday's RTCF show, for the team show. What are 3 reasons why you're more confident that Notre Dame can make another run compared to going into 2013?
Oh,
like, first of all, are you more confident than you were then, and why?
Okay.
It's going to be a really fun discussion.
I like that.
We already had the show on the phone today, but we're going to have it with you guys watching on Monday. So
I like that. And then also Monday night is our first radio / IB Nation show that you're going to want to check out at 5:00 as well. So we'll have the whole gang there on Monday. Jesse, myself, Sean, maybe some special guests, that kind of thing. So make sure you guys check that out. So big day Monday, great show at 1:00, great show at 5:00. So make sure you guys check it out. But we hope everybody has a great weekend. And again, if you want to jump on the boards, because obviously there's going to be some discussion going on. A great question is going to be brought up by John A1. So you're going to want to get over there. Premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com. We really appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We will talk to you next time on the Irish Breakdown podcast. Have a great weekend.